Good evening, everybody. Welcome to round four of the Assetto Corsa Rossi Down Under ATCC series here in 2020, which will, of course, spill over for a couple of weeks in 2021. Round four of a 15 round calendar. And we go from one extreme to the other, all the way from Perth's Barbagallo Raceway in the west over to the streets of Surfers Paradise on the east coast of Australia. The old Indy layout from the early and late 2000s is the layout we are running tonight. The last time that this layout saw the light of day in real world racing was all the way back in 2009 before it switched to the shorter version of what we commonly know today as the V8 Supercars layout. My name is Steve DeVries, and as usual, I'm joined by Lewis Wedding. How's your weekend been so far, mate?
It's been pretty good so far, Steve, and hopefully it gets better with some good racing tonight.
Yeah, I do hope the same. It's a couple of guys at the moment separated by a second at the top that any of those three could potentially take some honours tonight, not in just qualifying but in race trim as well. Smaller than usual field as well tonight, a couple of late withdrawals, a couple of guys with some internet dramas by the looks of things, and the series leader, we did remark he had a bit of grovelling to do with his wife being her birthday this weekend as well. And unfortunately, he's not done enough grovelling. He hasn't been able to make it with Shannon Wright missing tonight. So it kind of opens the door for a few guys that haven't had some podium results or a race win so far this year to get one or two on the board.
Yeah, I reckon we're going to see two new winners tonight. So at the moment, we've got Dane Joshua or Dane Liccardo currently fastest at the moment. But Termo in the Discord has been, talking himself up and saying he could go a little bit faster as well. So look out for him when they do go over to qualifying. He's probably, he's got the sandbags employed, a couple, sandbags littered around his the cockpit of his car that he's just got to take out for qualifying. So watch for that one. Also got Jamie Nankervis not too far away, and he's been fairly consistent and doesn't make too many mistakes. So he's another one to look out for, especially in the second reverse grid race. So, I do expect to see two different winners. Not as big as grid as what we would have hoped, but with all the front runners gone, it's certainly going to open things up for a lot of these guys.
Yeah, precisely. If we have a look at our point standings coming into tonight as well, a couple of those guys that you just mentioned, Termo in for his first run of the season, so he's not on our graphic there. He actually hasn't scored any points at all because this is his first entry into proceedings. One of the men you remarked about then, Jamie Nankervis, he's top three at the moment there. He is pretty much plumb centre of your graphic there, sixth place, 131 points. And he's not too far behind Dylan Call's Tirana. But we remarked earlier the race lead, or the race leader, the series leader, Shannon Wright, a pretty handy buffer there at the moment. 264 points plays Terry Marwood's 233, so it's a 31 point gap. Shannon Wright not here this weekend, and we're yet to see an appearance of Terry Marwood. Not sure if Terry will make it or not. But then the next man on that list that is here is Nathan Higginson. So he's sitting there in third on the standings, and he is currently fourth overall in practice. Not setting the timing screens alight. Got a little bit of time to find aboard that Mustang. But a couple of solid finishes for him. Could see him jump up above Terry Marwood, should Terry not be here tonight. But of the guys that are on that board there, only about 4 or 5 of them actually here, and the rest of them off that points graphic are going to make up some ground tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting for a number of those runners. And speaking of Nankervis, he's also missed a round, so he's done a good job to only be, to still be in sixth place despite missing round one. So he's been nice and consistent with fifth, sixth, and a fourth and a fifth. So expect tonight for him to pick up his first podium. And yeah, with Shannon Wright, and it looks like Terry Marwood may not make it, or if he does make it, he's usually pretty late off the top of my head. There's normally one or two guys that arrive very, very late in the sessions. So I do expect the numbers to pick up when we drop over. But yeah, with the likes of Wright, Marwood currently missing, and Nolan out as well, it's going to be very, very interesting. Higginson, again, I think he's just jumped in fairly, fairly late here. So he's only done, the 5 laps of practice here. So he's in late. So expect him to get better as the night goes on. But we should see, quite a change in the point standings. And it's going to close things right up for a number of guys in the championship.
Yeah, I think so. One of the men who was a very late withdrawal was Sean Bolton. That's one of the Nissans that partook in his first round at Barbagallo last week. So that's dropped our standings down at the moment. I think about 8 or 9 cars to 7 or 8. Just waiting on some confirmation if a couple of other guys are having some dramas or not at the moment. But yeah, very very small field, and we've gone from pretty much 15, 16 car grid for both races at Barbagallo. We've pretty much halved that for this particular round. But look, we'll take them any way they come, I guess, at the moment. And of course, know that everybody's got a little bit of extra commitments that they have to worry about sometimes. So everyone's can't usually make every race, but good for those guys that have done all that. We go over and have a look at the track map tonight. So for a handful of viewers, you might not be familiar with this layout. You might have to go back through your history books and have a look at some old YouTube footage to see what this layout looked like back in the day. But as we said, the last time this layout was in existence in Surfers Paradise was 2009, and for a number of years before that, it was most familiar with being the home of the Lexmark Indy 300, which started all the way back in 1991. Supercars came on the scene and started using the same layout in the 2004-2008 era, and then it wasn't until 2010 when they shortened the circuit. So just after that first chicane, it was a little short straight, and then it pretty much cuts that circuit in half, and that's the circuit layout as we know it today. But this is going to be a real torture test tonight, Lewis. 20 minutes qualifying is not too much to be frowned at nowadays, and we understand that 20-minute qualifying sessions will be the norm moving forward, but 2 lots of 20 laps around a nearly 4.5k street circuit, concentration is going to have to be high.
It is. It's a very, very long lap. So what we've seen so far in practice so far, the fastest time has been by Shane Wright, who's not racing tonight, at a 53.4. The next fastest is a 55.8, which is set by Dane in the last practice session. So it's a very, very long lap for these cars. And I think these guys will be a little bit thankful that it's a version of the circuit which is very, very flat, and the curbs, they don't really bite here because for the most part they're just flat. So the only thing I think the drivers are going to have to worry about is track cuts from what I've seen in the Discord. So you don't want to sort of exploit those flat curbs and pick up track cuts, which I think we're going to see 1 or 2 drivers pick up during the race, and we'll probably see a driver or 2 do that in qualifying as well, and have obviously not set a time because of that. Yeah. So that will be some of the things to look out for. And then, of course, being a street track, you muck up a braking zone, particularly after that beach chicane where you've got that left-hander there where Chaz Mostert in the shootout a couple of years ago completely wrote off his Mustang. That's going to be a difficult corner in these cars, slowing it up, and you don't want to overcommit into there because, that front right-hand corner will end up in the fence.
Yep, spot on right there. And coming back to your point you mentioned as well about a couple of track cuts, most of it is going to occur just in the run-up to the Sector 2 split, that back chicane. Back in the day, because we had the Indy cars around here, and I'm not sure how old this iteration of the circuit is, the curbs around the back chicane are completely flat. So I think a few drivers have tried to push the liberties with some of those corners just a little bit, so they can see how much time they can actually make, because that's probably the part of the circuit where there is time to be made. If you get your lines right, you're looking pretty handy for a good lap, but if you get your lines wrong, you'll pick up a curb strike, and what happens is the game will limit you to a set speed. You have to get down to that speed before you can then get going again, and some of these cars, they're pretty quick in a straight line, but they do take a little bit of time to get back up to full racing speed, especially because once you come out of that chicane, it's only a very short run to the next 90-degree corner, so you've got to get it over and done with pretty much as soon as you get penalised for it. And it'll be interesting to see how many drivers actually get pulled up by the game for breaking the track limits.
Yeah, so you're certainly not going to want to do it in either the race or in qualifying. Qualifying, obviously, you could be on a really, really good lap up to that point and have your lap thrown away, and you're going to have to go out and set another one if you've got time left. But in the race, if you have to slow down, as you said, it's kind of like all these sort of older racing cars. They don't have the greatest acceleration. They do take quite a while to get up to speed. They're real momentum machines. And if you don't have that momentum, you're going to be a sitting duck. So mistakes here, they're going to bite, whether it be a track cut or into the fence.
Yeah, precisely. I'm trying to get my words out here. Mistakes around a street circuit are magnified in a big, big way. It's very, very evident that that's the case. And looks like we're just getting qualifying underway at the moment. A couple of cars starting to make their way out onto the circuit. And usually the first one of these we always tend to see is Nathan Higginson, and precisely that. He is the first man out, and he's already coming around, I believe, the back section of the circuit into the... No, he's down the bottom end of the circuit. I do apologise. He's on the run down to the back straight now. So he's gone through the first chicane, around the couple of left-handers that form the bottom end of the circuit, and he's on his way up to the part of the circuit that we've been talking about, these pesky chicanes. Once he gets through this little flip-flop left-over right chicane, he'll be on his way.
Yeah, so people that haven't seen this version of the circuit before and only know the new Gold Coast, this is part of the older circuit, and he's coming up to around about this little kink here is a roundabout where the new circuit sort of hooks up. So as you can see, probably about 40 seconds as he goes through the very, very flat chicane. Wasn't quite that flat in real life, but yeah, it did need to be fairly flat as he's all out of sorts there.
Yep, he's offline and he's gone to the fence. So he's trying to flick spin the car here and get out of jail, and he's done precisely that now. Oops. And he's on his way again. But he was all crossed up after coming out of that chicane. Just took way too much of the track through the little kink, and consequently wasn't on the right-hand side of the circuit to make the left-hand corner, and pretty much had no room to work with.
He started to weave the tyres here, so I do wonder if tyre warming is going to be a little bit of a factor here. Obviously, all the corners sort of in that first sector, you're not really carrying a heap of speed through for a prolonged period, so that may be an issue early on for some of these drivers, is getting heat and tyre pressure into the tyres here.
Well, the one thing they're not going to have to worry too much about is real estate, because there's eons of it, given that there's not a huge amount of cars currently here tonight. As Higginson does his customary thing, getting it sideways. We remarked during the day before the broadcast tonight that whenever we cut to him, he's pretty much sideways. He was wondering whether it was him or it was the car. I think, personally, Lewis, I think it's probably him just enjoying himself out there.
I think, yeah, once or twice you could maybe, as he just grazes the fence there, you could maybe make the excuse that, yeah, okay, maybe the car a little bit, but if they constantly do it, you have to at some point go, yeah, I think that's just the way he drives, and we'll see tonight if he continues that getting it right out sideways, but as we've seen so far, he has continued that, so it must just be him. Must just like getting on the loud pedal and letting it loose.
Yeah, a little bit too happy on the loud pedal. So he's on his way up to the back chicane now. Let's have a look where everybody else is up to. I think this is the next man to cross the line to start a flying lap. And this is the new livery for John Wright's VL Commodore. He's backing it off quite early for the chicane, so probably a little bit of a confidence issue, I think. Just getting the cider in, get a lap on the board.
A throwback to I think Anton's Enduro livery for the back end for Erebus, I think a couple 2019. It wasn't was either last year or the year before on that livery, the black and then mainly red trim and a bit of gold there.
Yeah, it actually looks quite smart on the side, especially. Looks a little bit weird from my point of view, just on the front, just where the sort of the part of the split bumper and the bit in the middle. But I guess that's sort of what you got to work with, and probably that's what a lot of the designers back in the day would have done. Just painted a bit of black on the front there and just sort of left it the way that it was. But it's actually pretty decent looking livery, quite smart. Higginson the first lap time in anger at the moment, a 2-minute flat as the benchmark.
Yeah, but these are older boxier cars. It can make it easier in some respects. Certainly the sides are a lot easier to paint. But down the front ends of the car, it can make it a little bit more difficult in these sort of those quarter panel areas. But yeah, he's done a good job with that. Looks quite nice.
Now, I thought there was a couple of drivers just dawdling ahead, and there is too, and one of them is the A9X Tirana Dylan Call. So he's off in the runoff area at the bottom end of, the eastern end, I believe that is, of the circuit, about turn 12 or 13, just gone straight off and in the runoff area, which is, there's plenty of them here. So if you outbrake yourself, at least you've got somewhere to go to get out of the way. But you don't want to be doing that too often. You'll have to flick spin, turn the car around, and make your way back onto the racing circuit. What's John Wright got in the bank? Did he get a track cut through the back section of the circuit? We're about to find out.
I reckon a number of drivers have, because we've seen a number of people go out around the circuit and have been out for a while and haven't set a time. So
John Wright with an 05, 2:05.4. Actually had a 2-minute 1.3 from Jamie Nankervis, but his lap was subsequently deleted. So too, a couple of other drivers have just done outlaps. So Stephen Guy, Dylan Call have done outlaps. So they're currently flying around the circuit somewhere. I think actually that's Guy behind John Wright now, I believe, as we cycle through, picking up the Volvo 240T. Now, I believe that this might be the Turmo car, if memory serves me correctly, the 018. Or it might be the Nankervis car. I'm not sure. Nankervis has actually switched. So he was in the RX-7 the last time we saw him, and he has updated to the Volvo 240T, but I'm just trying to get my handle on the numbers.
Yeah, Nankervis 018.
Yep, so this,
018.
All right, there we go. So this is Jamie Nankervis on screen at the moment.
Turmo has a very distinct livery, and it matches his car perfectly. So when we do jump over to him at some point, you'll have a laugh.
In a moment for Nankervis at the final corner. So that ruins that lap, and it also ruins the subsequent lap, because your straightaway speed is very, very deterministic in terms of how you approach turn number 1. So he's got a time on the board at a 2:01.3. So if he's done a Lewis, let's get this right. If he's done a 2:01.3 with that spin on the end of it, that would have been pole by a country mile. That would have been about a 55, 56. So he was on for an absolute ripping lap there until that moment.
Yeah, I think being conservative, it probably would have been a 57. So it cost him at least 4 seconds. That sort of half spin into the fence there. So we'll see what I can do this time around. If you can put it all together, he may even go faster than what Dane managed in practice just before.
So he's on another lap. Dylan Call's now put in a 2:04.4 aboard the Tirana. Here's the machine of Craig Laws. I was about to say, very gracefully drifted it through the opening part of the chicane, not so much on the exit because the wall stopped him from going any further. And he now approaches this very tricky chicane. In real life, we all know what happens here, don't we, Lewis? We get plenty of cars with 2 wheels in the air and plenty of front ends of cars hitting belts surrounding tyres and witches' hats and all that sort of thing. And
what puts his car in the fence.
Yep.
Beat chicane there.
He's done the same thing as his mate, and he's exited back to the lane. So that's the end of that one for Craig Laws. Teammate here in Stephen Guyatt.
Drivers out there haven't set a lap or gone out at the moment, so Dane hasn't gone out on the circuit, and neither has Craig Laws.
Well, Craig was actually just out there and he's just gone back, so he's done an outlap, but I think he was actually on an outlap when he made that mistake and decided to exit back to the lane. They've still got a lot of time though.
Brett Willis is another one.
Yeah, Brett Willis has only just jumped into the server too. Now, we were aware, and he's actually gone aboard the Volvo 240T. Now, for those not in the know, we know that we know that Brett was actually in hospital recently as well. So, good to see him back out there, if that is the case. If he's in for tonight, it'll be interesting to see how he goes, and probably a bit of a learning experience, I guess, compared to the Nissan he drove all the way back at round 1, and now aboard a completely different machine in the Volvo 240T.
And I've just gone back to the main menu instead of using the on-screen in-game timing that we have. And Turmo is actually fastest on a 55.5. So I don't know if there's been a track cut or just a little bit of a timing glitch here, but according to that timing, Turmo 155.5 is the fastest time. But
yeah, I've got that on my screen as well. It's a 155.5, but he's currently in the pit lane, and the lap has been disallowed.
Yeah, so perhaps he's a little bit of a track cut, and it's a little bit of a conflict between the game and some of the apps that are required. But that is quite a benchmark for these drivers, and it seems to be that these guys are struggling to get a lap down because no one has broken outside of Turmo has broken the 2-minute mark. Although we did see that Hank Curvis would have broken it, but had a little off at the final corner.
Here's the A9X Tirana of Dylan Call. Another driver who's switched cars over the first couple of rounds to something he feels is a bit more suited to his driving style. Originally started with the very distinctive black RX-7 with gold arrow on the side. He's now stepped up into the number 7. Very respectful through the chicane. Very well measured. That drives it pretty much straight off now. Got to get over to the right-hand side. Oh, and who's that? That's Dane Joshua ahead, I believe, in the Commodore. That he was just approaching the left-hander, and there was the Commodore in the fence down the escape road. A little bit of a lock-up going into the last sector. Slightly offline at turn 15. Now through 16, 17, 18, these last couple of corners. And power down as early as you can get it down. Unless you want that power to drag to the line. You want to make the run as short as possible, so you stay to the right-hand side of the circuit, up against the fence. And he improves his time. Knocked about 2.25 seconds off his time there, Dylan Call. So goes into a mid-202. But very neat and tidy lap.
Not too bad. Are we hoping to build upon that on this next lap?
Craig Law's back out there on circuit behind, who's that? Nathan Higginson. They're just on the run to the middle chicane on the back straight. And we cycle through there. Is Higginson just ahead?
Yeah, so call about 1.2 seconds off his fastest from practice, so he'll be hoping to improve.
Oh yeah, by a mile. So yeah, he has a bit of room to improve. Now, there goes the Jamie Nankervis machine for another lap. You're right, there's a number of drivers that are currently sat up in the pit lane. At least half the field sitting in the lane at the moment. Only men out on circuit: Higginson, Nankervis, Call, Dane Joshua and Brett Willis. We'll see if we can pick up a few of these guys. So here's Dane Joshua. Oh, and he's come across the Dylan Call Tirana as they'll get into the chicane, and a big speed difference between these cars. Of course, the Tirana is a Group C, and the Commodore, piloted by Dane Joshua, is a Group A. So there is a bit of a speed disparity between these cars at the minute, and there's a bit of contact through the chicane.
He had gone purple. He had gone purple in the middle sector there by half a second. So he'll be a little bit annoyed with that. But that is the way it goes when it is a bit of multi-class racing out there. That is some of the things that you have to deal with. It's just a shame, such a really big track, and he's found a Group C car out there.
He's found it right at the wrong point in time as well. And the hard part for him too was the purple Sector 2, the Sector 2 marker comes up just after the back chicane ends. So he might have gone purple in Sector 2, but it's sort of stifled his Sector 3. But not to his displeasure, because he's gone to the top of the standings by what's on your screen there with the 57.191. It's still 1.6 seconds slower than what Turmo has been able to manage in the Volvo 240, but mind you, still a question mark over whether that is actually legitimate or not, given we think that it's not on the screen due to a track violation, but we'll have to see what happens between now and race start.
Yeah, so Dane had lost a lot of time in that first sector. He has improved again on on his own time in the first sector by only 2/10 though, so he's still got to find another 9/10 on Turmo instead of 40.3 compared to Dane instead of 41.2 on this lap. But if you can just keep it up in the middle sector and go get half a second faster like he was last time, he's just got to be able to put together and hopefully stay traffic free in that final second. He might be able to give that Turmo time a little bit of a scare. But yeah, that first sector, that's where he's got to find that time.
Just on board with him, looking over his left shoulder as he went through the back chicane there, Dane Liccardo. Very, very nice, very smooth, just made the line as straight as he could. Just getting as close as he dares to these walls. The car just wanted to swap ends there a little bit on the change of direction, getting through the last chicane. He's going to hug that wall, pick up the first part of this corner, and then just slowly pick up the throttle. Now you can put it to the floor. Now you can put it to the firewall. And then get this run all the way down the front straight. And what's he going to do on this particular occasion? Does he go into the 56s? No, he does not. Oh, hang on. Yes, he did actually, but he was given a track cut.
Yeah, he's picked up a track cut there. That was a 56.291.
That was a
so
full
7
second.
tenths away. Yeah, 7 tenths away from Turmo, but yeah, track cut looks like in the middle sector because he actually went faster than what he did on the previous lap, but it didn't come up as purple or green in that middle sector, so that's where he's picked up the track cut. So I'm guessing through the beach chicane there, he's just gone a little bit too Rambo, and yeah, that's where he's picked it up.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. As we said, that's where we believe all of the track cuts are likely to come tonight. And it'll be interesting to see as well during the race how drivers approach that chicane, because there's obviously room to bail out. If you try and make a move before the chicane and you get it wrong, you can bail out to either side. But I would imagine a few of the drivers will be a little bit annoyed if someone tries to run side by side with them going into that part of the track anyway.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Hopefully there's some things in place where you don't have people trying to go side by side through there, and people pick up track cuts. But telling them's one thing. Quite often, heat of battle, drivers want to get a move done, as we've seen in many of the series that we've covered. As Dane right out sideways at the moment, but I don't think he's going to improve, and I think he may have even picked up another track cut on this lap. So we'll just see about that. A little bit further down the field, I'm having a look. Looks like John Wright is going to improve on his time, maybe.
He was actually just gone across the line to start another lap. This is sort of like the happy hour now. It's the last opportunities to get a lap in. If you're not on the circuit now, you're not going to get a lap in at all. And Jamie Nankervis has realised that, as Dane Joshua now gets into the 56s, so 56.777, so not as quick as the lap he did before where he got the track cut, but he has gone into the 56s, so 1.1 seconds to the best time that Turmo's managed to do, who hasn't come back out again after the pit, after setting that time, and according to our timing here, having it disallowed. Who else is out there on the circuit at the minute? Nathan Higginson. There's John Wright just ahead as we pick him up. So Nathan Higginson, maybe you get a little bit of a tow here.
Well, Higginson is up. He's 6 tenths up. So what can he manage through the chicanes? You don't want to pick up a track cut here.
How aggressive does he want to go? Actually looks pretty good. Just a little slide late on the end of the beach chicane.
He's picked up a cut, I think, because his time's gone blank in the middle sector there.
There we go. That'll be what it is. And I can see, I reckon, where it is. There was a very brief moment, I think, at about the second part of the chicane where his left-hand side tyres were the wrong side of the yellow line. So just a little bit slightly too aggressive as he tried to straighten up that part of the chicane so he could get the best run through and maximise the time. He is going to get another shot at it if he's fueled for it. So both him and Higginson will go again. There they are. And I think Nankervis might be the last man out there on the track that is going to get a flying lap.
That would have been a 57.8 for Higginson. if he didn't pick up that cut. So that was the time that he set. It was a 57.8, and his current best is a 59.8. So 2-second improvement, but he would have put in P3, but yeah, just a little bit too greedy.
A little bit too greedy there for sure. All right, let's keep our eye on things here. I think that was another one of the Volvos come finishing its lap. Checkered flag is on display at the pit lane and the starting line. Dane Joshua at the far end of the circuit, so he's got one more lap. Now, who else is currently out there on laps? There's Jamie Nankervis, so he's got one more. There's Nathan Higginson, he's on his last. And this is Craig Laws, so this will be his last. Now, what's happened to John Wright? Where's he at the moment? Now, he's gone back to the lane, so he will not get another lap. And we'll cycle back through and pick up the men as they come to the line. So the last man will be, or the first man to cross the line. Oh, took a bit of curb. Trying to get too aggressive through the last corner was Craig Laws. Now, he does not have a time on the board at the moment. So whatever he can post here, if it has been a successful lap, will put him on the board and crosses the line, but that lap time has not registered, so that would be a lap time that has a curb strike against it. Now, I think Higginson is the next man to get across the line. Let's cycle up to where he is. Both Volvos are in the lane, and I think Higginson might have aborted that lap. Yes, he has. So he was on his last flyer and has aborted. Dane Joshua doesn't actually need to improve here. He's got a front row start regardless of what's about to happen.
He's in the no, like he's going in the pits.
Yeah, he's in the pits.
No, he is going in the pits.
He was looking for the lane, I think. So that's the end of proceedings for qualifying. And we now take a little bit of a break as the timer will count down for a race start in about 5 minutes' time. So let's go and have a look at how the results have unfolded. So this part is the interesting bit here, Lewis. Termo is still at the top of the standings and has that 155.5, which we didn't see. But when we have a look at the lap table, it actually has got a purple third sector and a green middle sector and just a normal sector one. So I'm a bit perplexed as to why that sort of hasn't turned up on the timing screens as you would normally see on the broadcast. But according to this, it looks like he will actually start on pole from Dane Joshua, then Nankervis and Higginson. So, and then Craig Laws and Dylan Call will be on row 3.
Yeah, a little bit odd, but I guess that's just some of the things that come with broadcasting and timing, live timing with AC. So a little bit, yeah, it can be a little bit confusing, but yeah, I think hopefully with all that Termo does keep his time. We'll actually try and have a look and see what other times he was able to set, if it shows me here.
And the most amount of laps that anybody actually did in qualifying then was John Wright with 7. So that was a 20-minute session. He did 7 laps with coming back into the lane and then going back out again as well. And that was in a 20-minute session. So you can work that out then, ladies and gentlemen. You'll probably find that there's going to be a very long race in store over the next, probably 25 minutes, I think we're probably looking at for a race here, Lewis.
Yeah, it's going to be a fair while. So there's going to be a lot of chances for people to get moves done. It's also a lot of chances for people to make mistakes. So we are going to around a circuit as long as this, you're going to need to keep that concentration, particularly with walls very, very close together. So I have. Moving back onto the Termo subject, I was having a look at the times there. So yeah, he did have the 2 track cuts. His first 2 times, his out lap and his first time lap were track cuts. So his first lap was a 57.0, and that's in red. He did set the 40.1 in the first sector, which is purple, and then it was just greyed out after that. And then he did set the 55.589 with 2 greens, and then a purple final sector. So that is correct. Termo in the Little Brick. I don't know if you've been able to have a look at Termo, but he only did his 3 laps really and went back to the pits. But when we do see it on camera, Steve, you will see the Flying Brick in all its glory.
Well, I look forward to seeing it because we know that he's had a bit of a penchant for doing some really cool and unique liveries over the course of the time that we've seen him, not just in Assetto Corsa stuff, but also over at Automobilista Australia. He's done some really cool things like taking the Jack Daniels Racing livery from Rick Kelly, Todd Kelly Nissan Altima and put it on a Camaro in GT3. We've seen him take a Mark Winterbottom Irwin Racing livery and put it from a supercar and put it on a Mitsubishi Lancer in TCC as well. And I think the last iteration of something unique that we saw from him was taking the video game console concept a little bit further by doing colours for Xbox, PlayStation, and I can't remember the last one was. There was 3 cars for the Termo Racing Engineering guys in GT3 Sprint Series. There was a green car for Rody, which was the Xbox one. There was a red car for him, which was the PlayStation one. And there was a blue one, I think, for Glenn Miles. I just can't remember what the blue logo was on the hood now, but he's had a pretty unique...
PlayStation, I think. So you had PlayStation, Nintendo,
Nintendo 64. Xbox. Yes, correct. You're right. Yeah. There it is. The red one was Nintendo 64. But yeah, so he's had a bit of a... He's a very, very clever man when it comes to doing liveries. So we look forward to seeing what he has actually delivered when we get to a race session in a little under 20 seconds now.
Not too far away. I'll have to fire up my sim up. Well, I wasn't able to finish my track edits in time because race 2 will have some improved track cameras for those watching along. I've just been busy today, so I haven't been able to sort that out. But race 1, I really can't pick a winner because we do have Termo, who we know can be quite fast and consistent. Dane Joshua looking quite quick as well. Then Curvis as well, he's up there. And Higginson, we do expect to find a little bit of pace as he wasn't able to set his best time in qualifying. So it's going to be a very, very interesting race with a number of drivers perhaps just a little bit out of position here.
Well, if we start cycling through the field, you'll see we'll get to Termo's brick in just a few seconds. And there it is in all its glory. Pavers and bricks and mortar with his customary number 51 aboard.
The Brick Dealer Team is the name. Absolutely
love it. You know what? I reckon the local brick dealer that does all, I think Melbourne Brick or Hallam Brick or whatever their name is, just up the road from me, would love to have a car like that as an advertising billboard from one of their sales reps going around and trying to flog their wares, because that looks absolutely stellar.
Yeah, this is playing on the old Flying Brick that the Volvo is. And I said last week in the broadcast it'd be great to see a Volvo with bricks all over it, and there we go, Termo's done it. So fantastic to see.
It looks like some wallpaper was actually taken and applied to that car, if I'm being honest, because it looks like something like those industrial sort of houses where people want to get that industrial look, but they don't want to pay for the brick. They just go, let's just put wallpaper on the wall that looks like bricks. But no, hats off to him. He's done a really good job with that one. Just looking at the angle that I'm at here as well, I think it's just the way that the Volvo is. It looks like the outer headlights on either side have been smashed by bricks as well, just the side that I'm looking at right now. So I hope that's not the case, but no, he's done a stellar job. All right, getting ready for a race start here. Now we will have to cut away for a very brief moment to put the cars back in the pit lane. And away we go. So the Brick Dealer Team Volvo is away, but it looks like he's going to have a little bit of a challenge here, because Dane Joshua had a pretty reasonable start and he's actually drawn alongside, and it looks like he's going to lead into turn 1. So the Commodore goes to the lead. He's going to follow pretty closely though. Dane Joshua's going to lead all the way down to the bottom end of the circuit, closely followed by Termo, and then looks like Nankervis had a pretty reasonable start. Craig Laws has had a good start as well. He started off of row 3 and is already up to P4.
Yeah, Do apologise for the silence. Had to take a little bit of a break in a second. So,
That's all right. While you're taking a break, we will actually just put the car back in the garage and we will go and pick up the race leader, which is what we've got to do. That's how we've got to do it with the broadcasting for the way Assetto Corsa works.
Paul and Higginson all side by side going into one of the back chicanes here. The Tirana up the inside, but Laws holds on around the outside in the Avengers Nissan.
Yeah, he did really well there because that was a really late send from Dylan Call, and Higginson was very nearly going to make it 3 wide going into the middle chicane. Now it's single file action. Oh, I reckon there's a track cut there for Craig Laws, possibly through the first part of the chicane. And, there's contact. I think Dylan Call might have got one as well because he's now been rounded up by Higginson. There might have been a little bit of contact there as well. And who's that behind them? That's Brett Willis. He's getting a bit interested in this battle too.
So they're all holding each other up here. But Laws now just starting to edge away from Higginson. But Call, he's got, he's right in the place where you don't want to be. He's got to look out for the car behind in Willis, and he wants to get by Higginson as well. So the blowtorch he's trying to apply, but unfortunately he's being applied to his bumper as well. So he's got to watch every step he takes because a slight mistake. Oh, that looks like a jump start for Willis. So he's into the pit lane.
Correct. We're just going on board with him to see what's going on. So you're right. He has jumped the start. Now, I've got a funny feeling I may know what have happened here. The safety cars that we use for the broadcast were actually on the grid. Normally they're at the very rear of the grid, but because Willis actually jumped out of the game and then came back in, I think it actually put him behind them physically on the grid. So he was, and he's gone straight through the first chicane there as well, but I think that may be what has happened. He's had to manoeuvre around to make sure he doesn't hit them and may have been pinged for a jump start.
Yeah, unfortunate, but still a long race. Let's just have a look back up at the front. Looks like Dane's just edged away. He's about 1.8 seconds clear. It was as high as about 2.5 seconds, but it looked like Termo's had a solid first sector. And Nankervis as well. He's had a solid start. He's sort of 1.7 away from Termo at the moment, and he's quite a ways ahead of Laws. So he'll want to try and find a few extra tenths so he can stick with Termo. Otherwise, he might find himself in another one of a fairly lonely race with a fairly big gap down to Laws in P4, who has stretched away from Higginson by 3 seconds. So it looks like Higginson's made a mistake, and so has Call, because Call's 3 seconds behind Higginson himself.
Yeah, just as we cut to Nathan Higginson, he was doing a bit of lawn mowing at the middle chicane, so wondering whether or not he's maybe had a bit of a move or speaking of having a move, he's outbraked himself down here at the final chicane. There he goes. Final chicane, sorry, the turn off the Backbrook Beach Road. But he was doing a bit of lawn mowing at the middle chicane. I'm not sure whether he'd had a lunge at Craig Laws and got it all wrong, or whether there was a bit of contact, but he was off the road, so that explains why Laws has gone through it. Also, that mistake at the bottom end of the back straight has shown you that he's gotten behind Dylan Call now as well. Some PB lap time starting to come in. Fastest man on the circuit is Termo, 56.4. The gap now down to just 1.2 seconds to Dane Joshua.
Yeah, so he's had a really good middle and final sectors and closed it right up. It's now less than a second. And Dane's never won a race outside of Forza, so he might be a little bit nervous here with that Termo right behind him. But he's in the pole position. He's just got to focus on hitting his apexes and getting nice exits. As well as not blocking his front brakes. As long as he can do that, it will make it difficult for Termo in the brick.
Yeah, Termo has had a couple of wins across various forms of sim racing as well. I believe he's had a couple of wins in TCC over at Automobilista Australia, and a couple of other things he's picked up along the line as well. So he'll know what it likes to be to lead the pack and lead them across the line after the last lap. But for him, it'll all be about applying the blowtorch to the back of the number 16 VL Commodore and maybe trying to force a mistake.
Yeah, he is a fairly patient driver, and I think he'll be smart enough to just go, well, Dane's he's not led too many races and he's not won a race in a sim, so I reckon Termo will just play it smart here, stick behind him and wait for the mistake. And if it doesn't come, he's close enough to be able to make a move, but I think he'll be smart enough to wait for a little bit later on in the race to try and set a desperate move. But a little bit further back, looks like Laws and Higginson side by side. They've actually made contact there, and also got a call off.
Oh yeah. Oh, and
well, in this...
there's a bit of calamity, and you can see there that's also caught out the Brett Willis car. So he's actually benefited from that one enormously. So just at the wrong moment there. So Higginson got through after the contact with Laws. Brett Willis is through. Call is now through. Laws now down to P7. That looked like it was a little bit messy. Probably kick-started, as you called it, between Higginson and Craig Laws, who had been side-by-side for a couple of attempts at various parts of the circuit now, and eventually they've come to blows.
Yeah, I'm not sure what exactly transpired there. I didn't see completely. I was only jumped to it very, very late when one of the cars is sideways. We've actually got a couple of cars in the pits. So,
so Dylan Call taking his compulsory stop. Yeah, so he's taking his compulsory tyre stop, and I think John Wright is as well. Or has John Wright just got a cut and going all the way through, or is he down the very bottom end? So he's down the bottom end. All right, so that's... And Stephen Guyot also in as well. So the first 3 cars out of the 9 that are in this race have taken their stop, and they've taken it very early. They've taken it at the end of lap 3.
Yeah, so it's going to be a fairly long way to go. But this track shouldn't be too hard on tyres, so it's not going to be too much of an issue. In fact, the issue might be trying to get them up to pressure and temperature, so that will be something to look out for in the next couple of laps. But getting in clear air for someone like Cole, it might be a smart idea to come in when he did, just to get some laps in clear air and try and put some fast ones together, while hopefully Higginson and Nankervis make some, make some mistakes. But I did catch actually Willis having a little bit of an escape down the escape road on the last lap though.
Now, what do you think Turmo will do here? I mean, we've been speaking about the fact he might just sit behind Dane for as long as he wants to and then decide to pull the trigger at some point. He hasn't got the straightaway speed that Dane has in the Commodore. You can see the huge disparity in front straightaway speed. But what about the other option would be come in and perform the undercut strategy? We've seen that work really well at the last round at Barbagallo, where a number of drivers came in, got their stop done, got out into clean air, made really good time, and it was all over in a matter of a lap. I think there was a couple of guys that came in and did the undercut, and by the time the guys that they were battling with, even though they reacted on the next lap in, it was already too late.
Yeah, it might be an idea for Turmo, who on the last lap was actually a little bit slower. He was actually about 4/10 slower than Dane. And on this lap as well, when I've been watching him, he has been struggling quite a little bit. He's just making some slight mistakes, and the car's also been getting a little bit loose on him. So it might be an idea for him just to come in and reset after making these slight mistakes, and get out and clear air. But in the end, it comes down to when you do make that pit stop, that out lap is important. He's got to put it all together, but at the same time, he's got to be close enough. And at the moment, the mistakes he's made on this lap at the moment aren't going to be ideal, so he might have to wait a couple more laps until he's back right behind Dane again, and then go for the undercut. So we'll see what he can manage here in the final sector, if he can bring it back under or within 1.5 seconds, and I think at that range he may be able to consider an undercut. If not, he'll probably have to stay out another lap.
There's got a bit of lap traffic here. This is the Stephen Guyot Nissan that they're now getting past, so he now goes a lap down to the race leaders. Craig Laws has come in as well. Now, I'm not sure whether he came in on the last sequence. It was John Wright, Dylan Call, and I think it was Stephen Guyot were the 3 that were in. So Craig Laws is now in. He goes a lap down. Turmo 57.7, Dane Joshua 56.8. So he lost him some more time that time around. We're just on board with Turmo. I mean, you can see he's driving the car pretty straight, and not asking too much of the car. But he's going to have to do that, as you said, just to sort of get back to the rear bumper of Dane's Holden, just so he's in a position where he has that flexibility on strategy to make the undercut or just decide to stay with him. But the longer that this goes on, if he can't make the ground up, the undercut strategy is probably the one that he's going to have to employ. He had the speed and he was able to stay with him for a lot longer. he would have the luxury of either just following him in, and then getting the job done on track, or he has the option of doing it the other way as well. We've actually just seen a new fastest lap of the race come up from Brett Willis out of nowhere. So
yeah, 55.8, which is his fastest time by a considerable margin. So whatever, he's worked out how to drive the circuit, and he's found out quite a bit of time there. So he'll be hoping to continue on that kind of pace, that's for sure. Unfortunately, he's quite a ways behind everybody.
Well, if you look at it with a bit of positivity, Lewis, it's going to be good for the next race, because if it's a reverse grid race, depending on where he ends up, he might be in a pretty handy position to lead a couple of laps or be sort of a bit more toward the front at that sort of pace.
Yeah, certainly something to carry on into the next one. That said, there's still quite a number of laps to go. This race is dragging out. It's lap 6, but it feels like it's lap 10 or 12. But Termo on this lap has been quick, and he's now right behind.
Yeah, he has too, actually.
Dean Licata. I don't know if he's made any mistakes, but Termo certainly has been very, very smooth on this lap. Now, what do each of these guys do? No, Dane just showing that, no, I'm going to try and fake you into the pits, but both of them staying out one more time.
Oh, fastest lap of Termo. Look at that. 55.713. So it was not so much a matter of Dane, being slow, because he was only 0.2 of a lap slower than his previous lap on that one just around. But it was Termo that picked up everything on that last lap, did the business, as they say, and really took a huge chunk out of that gap.
Yeah, so perhaps the tyres now starting to come in. Maybe they're starting to get warmed up and they're getting, a little bit of pressure in them. And that's why we're seeing some of these fast times. It'll be interesting to see what Willis can actually do on this lap here. He's just about to cross the line, so I'll keep an eye on him and see if he's still keeping up that hot pace. So cross the line, here he goes.
57.5, so not terrible. So maybe he got a bit of a track cut warning or something over the back, but very sort of flat through the opening chicane. So maybe he's found the right line that he needs to sort of drive the car through there, because there was definitely all four wheels the wrong side of the yellow line through that part of the course.
He was still quicker though, Willis, than Nankervis on that last lap, who did a PB. So he's really encouraging for Brett Willis. He's starting to pull it all together now. But at the front though, it's absolutely nothing between Dan Joshua and Termo, and Termo just getting closer and closer. And this back end, or the final sector, is where Termo has been much better than Dane. I think that's more down to the Volvo being a little bit better through the corners than the VL, because these cars aren't even.
Not only that, Dane having to take a very narrow line through the last couple of corners of the circuit as well, so just taking the defensive line and not really able to make a good power delivery to the road to try and keep Termo behind, where Termo had the luxury of, you saw it through that last sort of third and fourth corner, he was able to get through the left-hander, get the car all the way over to the left to open up the next right-hand bend, whereas Dane was sort of right down the middle of the track and sort of had to narrow his line up, so took a compromised entry, and then the Volvo was right all over the rear bumper like a cheap suit, like he is right now, of Dane Joshua.
Yeah, but the VL just has that too much straight line speed over the Volvo, and even though Termo was much faster through the chicanes, as long as Dane is able to exit those chicanes cleanly, he'll stay in front. So Termo, he's almost got to have a perfect run, hope for a slight mistake from Dane in front of him, and then probably hope for, to be close enough into a braking zone. So probably where they are here, or the left-hander after the beach chicane, and he can put it up the inside. Otherwise, it's probably the last corner, I think, will be his best opportunity, as that car is much faster and there's no straights for that VL to pull away from.
Yeah, well, they've got some lap traffic now. John Wright, who's already made his stop, is in the queue here.
Oh, Termo's got a great exit. He's got a great exit. Here's his chance.
And he's going to pull the trigger here down at turn 12. And he gets the job done. So, end for Termo. But Dane's going to fight it straight back down to 13 and 14. They're going to keep going.
Termo's going to have the inside for the next corner, and he's going to get the job done.
Got to leave him some space, and he does. And John Wright's going to be a cork in the bottle here. He's going to potentially upset the run for these guys onto the main straight. They take a narrow line. Oh, there's contact!
Oh, it's contact.
And he's going to...
They've redressed it.
Yeah, he'll redress it. So Dane knew he made the mistake there, and he lets Turmo have the place back. But that all concertinaed up because Dane was sort of probably a bit indecisive as to what he needed to do. He wasn't sure where John Wright was going to place the car and got a little bit confused and made a bit of contact. But he now rounds Turmo back up again. That's such as the straight line advantage of that VL.
Yeah, he did redress that. And normally, he's right out sideways and next to the first
Big
chicane
slide.
there, so he's pushing it, and he's taking a much better line through the second chicane. He should be able to hold on, but yeah, normally when you do see a redress like that, and then they immediately pass after that, you could get penalised.
Oh, there he goes!
Going around, he's
Big
locked
slide.
the rears. He's not lost too much time out of all that. He's done a good job to not completely loop the car. But Turmo back into the lead for now, but Dane should have the top speed to get back in front for now, but he's hotting up here at the front. Both these guys still have to pit.
They do, and also so does the man behind them, not the man that's John Wright, the man behind them on the road in terms of running order, which is Jamie Nankervis. Now, all this arguing between these two has allowed Nankervis to catch up. So the skirmish that these guys had at the final corner was a 2:02 and a 2:01 lap time respectively. Nankervis with a 58.5, so he took a huge chunk out of their advantage. And now they've realised they've got to get on with it. Although Turmo realises not only do I have to get on with it, I've got to get back past Dane, who's just driving the car as straight as he can. You have to leave a bit of space here though. Turmo might send it now up the inside here at 15. No, Dane covers it off. And here's that compromised line again. Dane, the car is too heavy and doesn't change direction as well as the Volvo does, so he can't get across to the left-hand side of the circuit to really have a good run through that second to third last corner.
I think he's worrying about Turmo just a little bit too much. If he does lose out of position to Turmo, the main straight here isn't too far away as we see Turmo now into the pit, so he's going for the undercut. But Dane I think he's just over-compromising there himself for that right-hander, that penultimate corner. If he does take that wider, more traditional line, it would help him for the next little run. Obviously, he will become vulnerable to Turmo behind, but at the same time, if he loses position there, it's not the end of the world because he will be close enough coming out of the final corner to make a move down the pit straight with this superior speed of the VL Commodore. But out of all this, though, 2 minutes 0.7 for him. Nankervis did his personal best at a 57.4, so that's another 3 seconds that these guys lost to Nankervis, who he'll be hoping once, I'd assume, Dane pits at the exit of this end of this lap, that Turmo and Dane continue their battle and he can find himself hopefully battling for the lead in a few laps.
And there's actually a PB last time around for Brett Willis as well, who's currently moved up to P3 by virtue of Turmo coming in for a stop, so he's still got some pace aboard that Volvo. So all three of the Volvo 240Ts that are in this race have definitely got very capable pilots, and they're very capable machines at the moment, all setting times, in their own PB range, respective of how they're going. But two of them still to pit, Nankervis and Willis. And look at the gap. Nankervis has really cut a huge heap. Oh, and there's a contact. Is it down? That's the Nissan at Craig Laws. And was Joshua involved in that?
Yeah. Dane had been stuck behind, I think it's Higginson, for about half a lap, and they're coming up to the beach chicane, and Dane got a little bit balked, and then again at the left-hander where Mostert ended up in the fence a couple of years ago. That's where Higginson ran wide and into the fence, and Dane had nowhere to go and made contact.
And he's responding. I would assume
he's going to lose out for sure here, because that would have cost him time both at the beach chicane and then the subsequent corner after he made contact. So Turmo should go into the lead, but we know Dane can be quite quick. He's got to put his next few laps out of the pits altogether.
All attention's going to turn to see where the number 51 Brick Dealer team Volvo 240T comes out relative to Dane Joshua now. So Nankervis has gone through. Joshua in the pits. Brett Willis, I'm looking to see what's happened to him. I think he's just going through now. So it'll be a Volvo 240T 1, 2 and 3 on the road at the moment, with only the top two drivers yet to stop. and he can hear the
Turmo's gonna have
Commodore.
a massive lead. He's going to have a massive lead here.
You can see the Commodore just in the back of shot there, just exiting the lane. So that is a huge lead now for Turmo. So the undercut has done the trick, and Dane getting caught up in a little bit of lap traffic has hurt him badly. To give you an idea of how far behind he is, it is 8.5 seconds or thereabouts. So Turmo now just down here at turn 6, and then we go back to Joshua, and he's sort of only just getting there now. So he's got a lot of work to do, the young fella aboard the number 16.
He's going to come under threat for Nankervis. If Nankervis has a really good in-lap here, it might be very, very tight between those guys, because I think he not only lost time to Higginson, but I think he stopped too early for his pit box, and he had to move forward. So that cost him another second or so. So Nankervis here, if he
we just caught him in
the fence,
massive wallop of the wall at turn 15.
Yeah, that won't be good for the car. But if the rest of the lap's all right, he might end up putting old Dane under a little bit of pressure for P2 here. So that is something to look out for.
Probably should get in the lane now if he wants to make it happen. Oh, big slide! No!
Around. Well, that puts pay to that one.
Yep. Laws had nowhere to go and Higginson lucky to avoid the whole entire lot, so he gets through all that. Craig Laws was actually a lap down, and just as Nankervis was reversing to get away from the pit wall, and he probably should get in there and get the damage done, but the compulsory stop done, which he's going to do. So that means that his chances of P2 have just evaporated, and that actually might be good for Brett Willis, because if he can keep going the way that he is, there he goes, he's going to lead a couple of laps here, or at least this lap. He might now be in with a shot of a podium.
He has been very, very consistent. I've been looking at the majority of his lap times since that fastest lap of his, and he's been 57 or better throughout since then, which was I think about lap 5 or so. So he's been really, really quick. He's figured out quite quickly how to attack the track, and if things keep going with our race leaders, I know he's going to be about 20-30 seconds behind them, but around a street track you never know. But certainly for race 2, he's going to be one to look out for both Dane and Turmo, because he is travelling along quite quickly. And I think Nankervis will be in a bit of trouble come the back end of the race. He will come out in front with the pit stops, but I do imagine Willis will give him a run for his money right at the end.
He's the last man to stop as well, Brett Willis, so we're going to keep an eye out for when he gets into pit laning, takes that compulsory tyre stop. So 12 laps will be in the books after this lap is complete, another 8 to go. So beyond the halfway mark, so tyres must be in pretty good shape if he's still able to do lap times in the 56 bracket last time around. As you said, Lewis, maybe just found out how to attack the trackers. Higginson, very close to pulling out in front of the leader there. Very sensible late manoeuvre to stay away from coming back onto the track.
I reckon he may have picked up a track cut with the way he went through the beach chicane that time around, though. He just straight lined it pretty much. But I think the gap to what you need is about 38 to 40 seconds for a pit stop. So it's going to be very, very close between himself and Nankervis, as he's put a bit of time on him here, and he's run wide and into the fence.
Yeah,
in a little bit of traffic.
I'd be getting in now.
To pit,
yep, and he is. Yep, good call. He was in the traffic there. He was going to lose too much time to the traffic as they continued to circulate. And Higginson's coming in again. So he's just in the back of shot behind. So that will now cycle the 51 of Turmo through to the race lead comfortably. Joshua will now end up in second. Having looked at the lap times, 58.269 that time around for Dane Joshua. 58 flat for Turmo, or very close to it, as close to as flat as you can, minus 1/1000th of a second, so 58.099 for Turmo. So this gap is really not coming down at any vast rate here.
Yeah, I'd say the tyres may be the deciding factor here. They're just not quite getting up to temperature and pressure here, because these guys we do expect this
made big mistake.
Sideways. He's drifting it through again. You can cue the Tokyo drift theme. Once again he's held on. That's good for the rear tyres to get heat into them, but it's not ideal if you've got warm rear tyres and your fronts are cold.
And that's what he did before the pit stop sequence as well. He locked the rears. That time it wasn't as bad. That time he actually managed to keep it out of the fence, got the counter steer on very, very early. It is a difficult approach to that corner as well. because you're coming off the second chicane in the front straightaway, and you've got to go around a kink that runs to the right-hand side and then get on the brakes. And it all happens so quickly that you don't want to be braking with a huge amount of force and turning the car at the same time, because the rears are just going to lock because the back end of the car, the weight transfer, wants to come around the wrong way, and then you're out of control. But somehow he managed to hold on to that one, and I must say that's probably a veteran save there. A very wise head with the steering on very young shoulders.
Yeah, that's. I think he got a little bit lucky with that one, but I'd say that the entry to that corner is comparable to, in some ways, as so I was going to say the battle between third and fourth, as Willis has got into third, but he's just put into the fence. He's still there, but not ideal. But yeah, that corner down there it's comparable to the entry to the chase, where you've got that right hand kick, but you've got to be on the brakes either as you're going through it or just after, and it can be quite awkward to get on the brakes. You don't really want to be, slamming on the brakes while you're still turning to set yourself up for the left-hander. So yeah, I think he's just lost the rears a little bit. It's pendulum on him, and yeah, he's done a really good job to save it. And in the end, he hasn't lost too much time out of all that. Still only set a 59.3 and lost 1.2 seconds, but it could have been a lot worse. But yeah, Willis, in the end, he is up into P3, got the job done in the pit stops. And I think Nankervis on the last lap actually made a mistake, because he's actually 6 seconds behind him now.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Something must have happened there, and with Willis being 6 seconds clear of Nankervis, I'm struggling just to see where the issue was. Nankervis's last lap was a 2:08, Willis a 2:03.9, but we know that Willis has just come out of the stop from pit lane as well, so not really a representative time. But Nankervis has been on pit lane and gone, so he's had a moment somewhere. There he is. That's what 6 seconds look like, folks. He's pretty much almost the 3/4 of the run between the bottom end of the circuit and the middle chicane on the beachfront. Although I must say, Brett Willis is starting to make a few mistakes, rubbing the wall on a few too many occasions. So he's going to have to be careful. I know he's got much fresher boots on that car. Oh, that's a big...
Yeah, I don't know if the game's penning for track cuts there, but he's going to struggle to pull that up.
That's a big hit.
Hard.
Oh, and there's damage, big suspension damage too. Look at the car sitting down on the right-hand side.
Yeah. I don't know how the right rear's got damage on that thing, but yeah, he's three-wheeling that baby.
Oh, that's going to be... We're going to have to look at that ACAD's moment in history. That is... Wow. He's now he's in the fence. So there goes Brett... so there goes Jamie Nankervis. So that is major suspension damage. I think... has he got it going again, or is it... No.
Maybe a puncture, that's why it's bobbing up like that. Either that, or maybe the game's trying to simulate a lost wheel. But yeah, that is big damage.
Oh, and he's having a big moment here as well, as he tries to get back to the pit lane. Let's have a look at it from the onboard. Oh yeah, that thing is, to quote Barry Sheen here, Lewis, that is a major sausage at the moment.
Yeah, it's quite a big sausage. And the All Wheels Motorsport team, I think they're going to have to get the spray cans out if he does get back to the pits, and scribble all wheels out and have 3 wheels, I think, because he's got 3 good ones and 1 very, very bad one.
Like a Reliant Robin, except the missing wheels at the wrong end of the car.
Yeah, but he's trying to get it back to the pits here. He's struggling along, but he's getting there.
Well, the important thing is, if he gets back to the pits and he actually gets out there and finishes the race, he's going to get some points. So that's the saving grace that he's looking for here, to put some points on the board, as long as the car's repairable. So he has made it back to pit lane. Higginson's in the lane for the 3rd time as well, so he's not had a very good run through the race as well.
John Rideoff in the fence as well at the same spot that Willis went off.
There you can see the telltale signs on the road there as well, the 2 11s. That's not from doing a burnout, ladies and gentlemen. That's from the front locking on the approach to the corner.
Yeah, you don't want those. You don't want to see those 11s on the way into a corner. On the way off the grid, it's not too bad, but on the way into a corner, it's going to have a bad ending. But look at the times. Turbo's had quite a scruffy lap, 2:06. He's lost quite quite a bit of time to Dane, about 2 seconds. Dane, not an ideal lap himself with it at 1:58, but certainly making up time. We'll be hoping for another mistake or two from Turmo, and another battle for the lead.
Yeah, so he's found some good pace there, Dane Joshua. What Turmo may have done is maybe another mistake through the back chicane or something, because the time went down very rapidly in the last couple of parts of that lap, and it's coming down again, and I think this is just because he's just stuck behind Nathan Higginson here and trying to probably time his run to get past this Mustang. And then there's also some more lap traffic a bit further ahead. I can see it's Craig Laws, and I think just ahead of him may very well be Dylan Call, I think, who's the last man on the lead lap as it stands right now.
Yeah, Call and Laws close together on the track. They're the next 2 cars down the road for Turmo after Higginson. And yeah, that gap has come down about 4.5 seconds now. And
Laws has rounded up. Oh no, he has. I was about to say he's rounded up Dylan Call, and he's done this.
Oh no!
No!
Oh no!
Oh, that's terrible. And went to grab reverse, didn't realise he was there. Now the rule usually is supposed to be you've got to go down the escape road, flick spin the car like he's doing right now, and then rejoin like that. That's the way.
Yeah, he's got it going again, but yeah, you do want to wait for cars to go by before you do any kind of reversing. But yeah, it would have been smarter just to go down to the escape road to his immediate right there. It didn't work out too badly for Turmo though. He wasn't balked in any way, I don't think. As he's now side by side with Higginson. Now in the pit straight, he'll be hoping Higginson just lifts off the throttle. Yeah, 59.1.
This gap is coming down.
56.2, personal best for Dane. So he's pushing hard here and he's trying to make a race of it.
This is not over. That gap has had 4 seconds wiped off it in the last lap alone. This is game on. The seasoned veteran is caught up in traffic, and the rookie is pushing hard as a result, and he knows that traffic is working to his advantage right now, but the problem for him is he's now got to get past it. What does Dylan Call do? Oh, he's just going to get held up a little bit here. Call's going to let him through, so that's actually not too bad. That's worked out pretty well for Dane.
Yeah, Call's getting out of the way. I think Turmo will be getting a little bit grumpy with Higginson. He's been stuck behind him for more than a lap now.
Yep. And doesn't know what to do. Indecisive, into the slipstream, out of the slipstream, back out now. Is Higginson going to leave in the room? Yes, he does. Oh, it's compromised Turmo's entry into the back chicane as well, the first part. But he gets through there okay.
Oh, we've got, who was that? That was Willis. He made another mistake because he's on 3 wheels, or perhaps they didn't fix it. And they're going to go side by side again. So Higginson, because he's got more top speed, doesn't want to give that time up. And he's 2 laps down. He should probably just let the leader go and just sit behind him. But it's worked out perfectly for Dane. And now that gap at about a second is Higginson now in the fence.
4 cars in four laps have done the same thing at the same corner on the circuit. So Higginson's the latest victim. Before that it was Craig Laws, then John Wright. And the man that kick-started it all was Brett Willis. And he's the one with the most damage.
Yeah, so, and he's gone back to the pits as Willis. I think he's going to DNF from this one. But, well, that's exactly what Turmo wanted, because now he's got no one in front of him. But in the end, I guess Higginson's done us a little bit of a favour, because it's brought the gap between first and second a lot closer, but Turmo certainly didn't want that one. And he's got a fight on his hands here, as once again, Dane in the 56s, while Turmo only managed a 58.2, but he did put time on Dane in that final sector.
Yeah, put a huge amount of time on him as well. You can look at the gap now. We've come down to 1.3 as they went into the braking zone for the first chicane. Now back up to 1.6, 1.7. The straightaway pace is where this car is making all of its time right now. Oh, Turmo very wide down here at 6. A little bit of oversteer for Dane on exit as they go into 7. Watch this gap start to evaporate now if Dane can get a good exit. And he's done precisely that. Drove it really nice and straight, nice and square off of that corner. And now the VL is going to start to reel in the brick. And look how much time. He's so much more confident under brakes as this race is going on. Really, really clean through the chicane. Just tried to pick up the throttle a little bit too early. A little bit of oversteer, corrective lock. He's not going to be able to do anything before they get to the back chicane here, but he might try and set something up for turn 13.
Well, all Joshua has to do is just stick with him at this final sector. He's got the top speed advantage, and there's nothing Turmo can do about it. We saw him, he couldn't get by Higginson, who's a couple of laps down, and he's going to have a hard time keeping Dane behind. As you did see when they were battling earlier on in that race, that Dane just got back straight by. So he's had a good run here. He's stuck with him. It's all about now not getting too greedy, putting the power down for Liccardo, coming out of this final corner and just blowing by the Volvo and retaking the lead.
Well, here's the moment. If he's going to get it done, he'll get it done right now, or he might wait it out if Turmo will put the defensive boots on, throw the anchors out. 2 laps to go. This race has gone on for 36 minutes, would you believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen? Oh, Dane!
No, they've both cut the chicane there.
They were trying to outfox each other, I think, there. Turmo threw the parachute out and started braking, got it all wrong, and then Dane overcommitted, I think, had to cut it to avoid making contact. So they both escaped with that one, so it's as you were, gentlemen. And where's round 2? Round 1 was a no contest. Round 2 is now on. Turmo wide again at the same corner. Second time in 2 laps for Turmo. He's wide at turn 6, and Dane's going to have him at 7.
And you'd expect him to drive away down the straight as well. So Turmo now, he's going to have to do something miraculous here, or hope for a catastrophic mistake from Liccardo in front, because he's not going to be able to get him really down any of the main straights. That said though, there'll be a little bit of nerves with Liccardo. He's leading a race with just a couple of laps to go, and he's not won a race in a sim. So now all the pressure is lumped on his shoulders, while Turmo, he can now take a little bit more risk and try and get a move done.
Oh, Dane was a little bit sort of out of control at the final part of the chicane. Turmo has a run now. He might have him down here at 13. No. Dane takes a narrow line. Next one is through this little kink at 14 and then into 15. And Turmo not quite close enough. What's the compromise line look like? Again.
Here we go. I reckon the final corner, Turmo might try it here. If he's close enough, he might try it here. He's close. He's having a look.
No, probably better off leaving it for another lap. And he's going to go the different way here and try and set it up from the outside and try and get a better drag down the front straight. He's got to stay in the slipstream of this Holden, though. He's got to stay in the slipstream so he can stay close, because the part of the circuit that he's good at, as the white flag is out, the part of the circuit he's good at is the final sector. So if he's within earshot after the beach chicane, he's going to have a send in the last couple of corners.
Yeah, he may just have to just take a punt at maybe taking a little bit more risk at that beach chicane. He's had a good run through the first chicane, and again, faster through the second chicane, but he's not going to have the top speed to really make a move, I'd imagine.
Dane's going to have to cover it. He's going to have to cover it at turn 6.
Doesn't cover it.
Doesn't cover
Turmo
it.
Not really confident enough under brakes to have a look. They've been smart just for Turmo, just to show the nose a little bit, force Dane to cover the inside and then try and set up a move later on.
Great run from Turmo at the moment. He got a good run out of turn 7. He's right with Liccardo. He's doing exactly what he needs to do.
He's not close enough. Hasn't got that top speed. It's all going to be about the run through the beach chicane now. If Turmo can just nail it, he might be able to get it done at the left-hander afterwards. So he might have to just take a little bit of a risk and just go for it here.
Here we go. Look at the gap that he has at the moment. So Dane's got a pretty decent gap through the beach chicane, but this is where it is. And look at him start to close. Turmo starts to just pull this gap back. Under brakes, super confident. Makes up a huge amount of time. And now he's got to get the move done. He's only got about 2 more spots to do it. One of them's here, and Dane covers it off. Now he's got to get a good run, get the power down early, try and get up the inside at this final corner. It's do or die.
No, he doesn't do it. He doesn't do it. He's not going to be... trying to set up the switchback's completely pointless in the Volvo because he hasn't got the top speed to do it.
Oh, and he's ruined it!
So Dane Liccardo is going to come home and take his first win here in the VL Commodore.
Well done, Dane Joshua. What a drive. Front row start. Made a bit of a mistake. Thought that he'd made the mistake after getting stuck in strategy, and that Turmo had called a winner by getting in and getting the lead wrestled away, but to his credit, drove really well and made the most of the traffic situation that caused Turmo to have a little bit of a difficult run in the latter couple of laps, and that is a victory well deserved. But great racing between these two, went toe to toe, and the young bull has come out with the chocolates in this first race.
Yeah, he'll be very happy with that one. He got a little bit lucky though, obviously with the traffic holding Turmo up, but he had to take his chance, and he did, and he had to hold on in the end with Turmo giving him a really good run at the end. But in the end, just too good. But it was also fantastic to see, Steve, that they're able to race side by side and not make any contact at all.
No, you're absolutely spot on. They did really well there. All that being said as well, Jamie Nankervis has gotten home for third, so Volvo 1 and 3 on the road after that one. And then Dylan Call's got the Tirana home in fourth, so with a performance like that, he'll be pretty happy that he has made the decision to switch cars after all that has been said and done. We look down the field. John Wright, that'll be his best result of the season, so he's gotten home for actually equal best result actually since second race of Adelaide, so that's a second, fifth place on the season for him. Higginson will be disappointed with sixth, I think, though, Lewis. That's probably a race that I think he'd probably want to forget.
Yeah, he had a number of pit stops in that. It was almost like 3 or 4 laps in a row, I think, Steve, that he called that he'd come into the pits. So I don't know if that was just drive-throughs or some damage or something like that, but he did have a little bit of pace in that thing, and as we saw with Turmo, like, he's got top speed in that car. He'll just be hoping to have a nice clean run in race 2, but it will give him a slightly better start though for the second race being reversed. So he'll be hoping to put it all together and make amends for a bit of a nightmare in race 1 here.
And the last man they're going to get across the line is Brett Willis, who's a lap down on the field. So he's going to get 7th, Craig Laws is 8th, and Stephen Guyatt. We failed to mention actually that at about the halfway mark he was a retirement from the race, and I think the comment from him in the live stream was concrete hurts too much, which it kind of does around these street circuits if you're getting that close to the wall.
Well, concrete hurts anywhere, whether you're driving a race car at full speed or you're riding a bike and you're stacked, so
yep.
you certainly don't want to hit it at any point.
I will agree with that. And Brett Willis is going to take P7 from Craig Laws in 8th, and Stephen Guyatt, the only retirement from that race. Now, I've just noticed a little something popped up during the live timing of that race, Lewis, and that's that we seem to have inherited another driver for the next race in the form of Shannon Wright. So, current points leader must have done enough grovelling because he's made it back for race 2.
I reckon he's going to owe the old wife quite a bit, I think. Obviously the birthday for the wife, and he's tried to get out of dinner pretty quickly, but it's good to see him back out there. But he's going to have to start from the back of the field, which should make for a good show early on.
Now, the important thing, if we're just doing the points mathematics here at the moment while we wait for the next race to get sorted out, is that Higginson's 6th place actually draws him level with Terry Marwood on points after that first race. So Higginson moves up to 233, so it'll move him into a net second place after what doesn't matter what result he gets in the next race, as long as it's not a DNF. He'll be in second in the overall point standings by the end of the night. Shannon Wright's gotten lucky there, though, because his gap to Terry Marwood was 31 points, and that's precisely what it is to Nathan Higginson at the moment, who's level with Terry Marwood. So Shannon Wright's actually pretty lucky. He's come into this race, and at the moment, his advantage over the man in second place is nothing. Higginson wasn't able to make any inroads.
Yeah, it's ideal. All the quick drivers that he's contending the championship with, either not having the ideal result or not being here. So ideal for race 1. But he's still got race 2 to go, and it is a street circuit. And we have seen guys put it in the fence here and have nightmares, as we saw with Higginson. So, yeah, obviously good for him, that result, even though he didn't participate. but he's still got one more race to go where he could have a good one or have a bad one.
Well, we've got the 5 minute countdown now between races, so this is the opportunity that the drivers have to get up out of their sim rigs, stretch their legs, and go to the loo if they need to go and have a toilet break, and then sit back down and get going again. Just getting a bit of a look here at what the best times overall were for that race. Now, we know that Turmo had the fastest lap of that race, a 1 minute 55.713, which sort of came at about just before halfway. And then we have a look at the sectors and we can see where they are. Sector 1 and 2, purple sectors, belong to Brett Willis for the race at 39.4 and a 33.8. And his best was a 55.716. He wasn't as strong in the final sector as Turmo was. He was some 9/10 of a second slower than Turmo in Sector 3. So if he had been on a par with Turmo in Sector 3, his lap time would have been in the 54s. So he would have been clearly the fastest car on the track. The fastest final sector actually went to Dane Liccardo. We'd commented how quick Turmo was in Sector 3, and he held that moniker for quite a while with a 39.1. But Dane Joshua's final sector was actually a 38.8 and a purple sector. So somewhere along the line, he'd managed to get it right at precisely the right time to deny Turmo having the honour of being fastest man in the third sector, which is where he was making all the time over the course of the race.
I do reckon that was towards the end of the race. I can't confirm that, but there was a point where he was trailing Turmo towards the back end of that race, and he put it all together to set up a move. Or just to get a bit closer to Turmo. So I reckon it was towards the back end of that race, and he didn't compromise that penultimate corner there. He went over to took a little bit more of the circuit, I should say, and for that right-hander, and it would have been faster for him. Then, of course, he's got a bit of horsepower to play with compared to the Volvo down the straight as well. And out of that, a quicker final sector. So if he just does that a little bit more, he'll be overall faster. He just, I think, worried just a little bit too much about Turmo when he was right behind him.
Yeah, in that early stage of the race, I think you're right. I think he sort of worried a little bit too much about Turmo and what was going on when he really didn't need to. It's as I think they say to Jamie Whincup whenever he was driving in the Red Bull Holden Commodore, I think it was a couple of years ago, always used to be eyes forward. That was the one thing that Dane probably needed to do in that regard, is just turn his eyes, put him forward, and not worry about the car behind. Just drive his own race and worry about the track ahead of him, not what was on behind him. When the only time you've got to worry about somebody behind you is when you've got a chance to look in the mirrors and see where they are, and usually you do that on the front straights. You don't do that through the corners.
Yeah, the best thing for any driver that does start out racing and does find themselves battling with people, the best thing one can do when in those sort of battles is obviously you do need to know what is behind you, but at the same time, best thing you can do is just focus on getting that next corner right, which means eyes forward, hit your braking marks, turn in the right spot. Don't get too greedy trying to apply power, and get the good exits. And if you take care of all that, you don't really have to worry too much about the car behind. It's when you do start to worry and start to drive in your mirrors a little bit, where oh no, I've got to get on the power a little bit earlier. I've got to brake that 2 or 3 meters later, and that leads to mistakes and really big errors and spins and going off the circuit. So if drivers just took it back a bit of a peg, but also focus on just doing the basics right, they don't have to worry in the end about battling as hard, because in the end they're going faster.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. Now, the only thing that we'll have to keep an eye out for in this next race is whereabouts Shannon Wright's going to start. Now, I've also noticed that Bailey Northcote has also managed to get in for this second race as well. He was a bit worried that he wasn't going to make it, but he's out there and he's made it, which is good. So the second Ford Mustang on the grid. So we're now up to a total of 10 cars, it looks like. We've got, I'm just going to see if Stephen Guyot's made it back in. I'm not sure if he's going to be with us or not. Maybe might be having a couple of issues there. We're just waiting for the game to roll over for the next session. which is about to start in about 2 minutes' time. But we'll have a quick look at the calendar while we wait for that. So round 4 is where we're at tonight. Next week, the circuit that I'm a bit impartial about because I always spend a lot of time down there, the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit. I'm going to look forward to see how some of these cars handle that. That's going to be a track that I think probably does favour the likes of the Volvos here, Lewis, because there's, as much as the front straightaways there, you spend a lot of time turning through some of these high-speed, medium-speed corners at Phillip Island. So I don't think that's going to favour the Commodores too heavily.
I don't know. I think what gets lost a little bit is that I know there's like high speed corners and the like, and well, medium speed corners as well. But because of the length between each of the corners for the most part, outside of, between Lukey Heights and MG and between turns 1 and 2, outside of that, you've got really long runs pretty much through most of the corners and lots of high speed sections. So it's a bit of an interesting one, and you do need a car that has a bit of power. So it will be interesting to see, in particular, how the middle sector fares between the VL and the Volvo. If the VL's quick in that middle sector through some of the twisty bits, I do expect it to be quite strong. But I was watching around last night, and Dane did have a race at Phillip Island in these same cars in a different series. So he should have a bit of experience and a bit of speed around there. So he'll be looking to have a couple successful rounds in a row here.
He's also had a bit of experience at that circuit in a couple of weeks ago, actually, over at Automobilista Australia, where there was a 250 kilometre race for supercars. But that's then. This is now. Traffic lights are on for race 2. And it's Craig Laws off the front row, along with one of the Volvos there. And away we go. Everybody away pretty cleanly this time around as we wait to pick up our leaders. And here they go, all the way down into the first chicane. Oh, and one of the Volvos is through pretty much straight away. That's Brett Willis going straight to the lead. He's had a really ripping start. Oh, and as we have seen before, that's a big cut. And Craig Laws has now got Nathan Higginson all over his rear quarter panels.
Yeah, so the live timing on my screen shows Dane in the lead, but as we can see, that is not the case. But Willis in the lead. Higginson has got Laws right behind him. Quite a bit of a gap between first and second, and then third and fourth there. So Willis is well and truly away, but you've got to say, right behind Call, very angry pack. They look like they go 3 or 4 wide here.
They're going wide here. And it's in the sucker hole, as they like to call it, is Dylan Call. And he's got a Turmo to the left. He's got a Shannon Wright there as well. He's also got the other car there as well of Nankervis. And somehow or another, he's still in the middle of this Volvo 240T sandwich with bacon, if you want to call the colour of Turmo's car bacon at the moment, because that's what it looks like to me at the moment. Two burnt pieces of toast and a bit of bacon and lettuce in between.
Yeah, he'll be hoping for a few mistakes in front. Higginson made a mistake, and he also had a little bit of contact with, I think it was Dane there, but Dane had nowhere to go. Timing's still a little bit out at the moment. That's on my screen, so maybe I have to sort my thing out there. I don't know what it's doing.
Oh, there's contact up at turn 16. So Craig Laws was around, unsighted. Around came Dylan Call, and around came Bailey Northcote, and they've run into Craig Laws. So Laws had looped it on the entrance to turn 16 and caused a bit of a chaos for a couple of cars coming through that sight unseen. So there'll be some pitting for damage here. There goes Bailey Northcote. Now I'm wondering if he's coming in for a stop or whether he has had a jump start, whether he's got some damage he needs to repair. So there he is coming down the lane.
Tell you what though, wouldn't be not a bad idea for either any of the front runners or guys with a bit of pace here. There you go, jump start. But yeah, these guys with a little bit of pace just to pit early, because it looked like that as the race went on, that the tyres did start to come alive, and when they did pit in that just past halfway, they did struggle and didn't have the lap time in it. So it might be an idea just to pit on the second or third lap here, and at least in that middle portion of the race, get your tyres up to temperature and have a good strong back end and finish to the race.
Yeah, you've got to remember too, some of the people that came in very early in that opening race were people like John Wright. I think also getting in there as very early as well was the man who's not here, Stephen Guyatt. I can't remember who the third person was that got in there as well, but they had a little bit of mixed fortunes in that first race the longer it went on. I think sort of getting in maybe around lap 7 onwards is probably the one you want to do.
Higginson's in the fence. He's once again locked up.
That same corner that's caught out all the victims tonight as well. There he is. Oh, and behind him as well, it was Nankervis giving the wall a decent clout as well in position number 4. Hasn't Dane Joshua had a really good start to this race as well? He was off the back row, of course, because he was, or close enough to the back row because he was the round 1 or the race 1 winner. Already found his way through to position 2.
Yeah, he's done a really good job, but he's actually right behind Higginson at the start of the lap, so he must have made a slight mistake somewhere. Got caught up in a battle with Nankervis a little bit there. So he's done a good job now to end up back in P2, and well, he's actually done a 55.3, so never mind what I just said. So travelling on quite quickly, and in a really good spot, especially compared to who he was battling with in race 1 there.
More Tokyo Drift theme music for Nathan Higginson behind, sideways through the opening chicane as he tries to hang on to the back of this number 16 Commodore. And behind them, Nankervis is just doing his best to keep in touch here. But immediately, oh, geez, Higginson gives me conniptions every time we look at him at the moment. Going sideways through every corner. But looking at people like Nankervis, who are doing pretty well to hang on to this group here. Shannon Wright has had a good start from the back of the grid. He's now behind Jamie Nankervis.
There's another one in the 55s as well, so he's got quite a bit of pace in that thing, but he's got quite a ways to go as both he and Nankervis outbreak themselves into the Bartercard chicane there. So also a little bit of time, and Turmo himself down the back there also making a little bit of an error. So I don't know if there's wind turned on and they're just getting caught out or what, but all of them outbreak themselves.
Now, I think a few of them have worked out the liberties of this track and where they can and can't get away with. Oh, there's another massive accident. So that was Dane Joshua and Higginson again at turn 12 and 13.
I'd assume that Dane's had an off there and Higginson either followed in sympathy or he made another mistake because he has struggled with that corner all night long.
Yeah, that's caught out. I think that's the 5th victim it's caught out in Nathan Higginson all night long. Well, there's going to be, I think, someone writing in chalk down on that wall as to how many cars have hit that wall tonight.
And that's one of the bricks. Oh, it looked like it's going into the pits, actually going side by side there. So Wright and Nankervis swapping positions.
Yep. So Shannon Wright can now lead out for Nankervis. So that's pretty well orchestrated on the front straight. So that error for Nathan Higginson and Dane Joshua is free kick to Brett Willis. Shannon Wright actually was the quickest lap of the race that last lap around, a 54.8. So first man all night into the 54s. The problem for him is he's now caught up behind this Commodore of Dane Joshua. He's going to have to make it as wide as he can. And if he can do that, that's going to be music to the ears of Brett Willis, who has got about a 7-second lead at the minute.
To be fair, Dane doesn't have to do too much. He doesn't have to go defensive into these long corners or do what he's doing there and try and break the toe. He's in a car that is much faster down the straights. All he's got to do is just not stuff up in the mid-corner and just keep it nice and steady through the first 2 chicanes and not outbreak himself at, I think we can call it Higginson Corner now.
We'll call it Calamity Corner, I think is what we'll call it.
Yeah, I think there's been so many accidents down there.
Shannon Wright got a little bit of the outside wall on the last part of the chicane as well. It just rubbed the wall a little bit. And I think
Willis has made a mistake.
Yeah, he's got a track cut.
Higginson's gone off again. He's gone off again. Big disaster. But yeah, look at that.
Yeah, that gives Nankervis position 4. And Turmo gives him as well position 5. So they both moved up. Now, I think Brett Willis got a track cut through the back chicane. There's a bit of contact here. We're looking at the onboard from Shannon Wright's car. And this is now really awkward because...
Oh, they're all sideways. They're all sideways. I wonder if anyone's going to pit here. It's going to... Yeah, Willis looks like he's going to pit, and he's made it really awkward for right there because he broke right in front of him as he turned across him. So very, very awkward. But Dane Joshua now into the lead. Awkward line through the chicane.
Wright's going to have him. Wright's had a good run. He can't get him around the outside, though. He's going to try the old switchback and going to try and stay with him and send it down into turn 6. Now this is where Dane needs to throw out the anchor and keep these two Volvos at bay. It's going to be difficult. There's also traffic concern coming up very shortly. It'll be Laws and John Wright, who are just up the road. Now they go through turn 7. And there's Turmo in back a shot, so this is now starting to come back to Turmo as well. With all the defensive work that Dane's had to do, this is starting to allow some of these cars that were a little bit further behind to start to play catch-up. All the Volvos have got to do now is just sit there. They've just got to play the Turmo trick from race 1, just sit there and then pick their moment.
It seemed like a very, very long pit stop for him, so I reckon he may have had a bit of damage on that car, because that wasn't just a 40-second pit stop. That's almost he's lost a minute according to the timing. So he's had quite a bit of a drama there, and I reckon he's going to be out of this battle for the podium here as they come up to John Wright and Shannon Wright having a look up the inside. Joshua looking to hold on around the outside. He's going to have to hold on around the outside again here. No, he's pulled out in front. Now, whatever Joshua does, if I was right, I'd do the exact opposite. So if Dane enters the pits, I'd stay out.
Yeah, this is tricky as well. John Wright's done the right thing here, getting out of the way of these 3 leaders, just letting them go. But you're right, Lewis. I think it's going to be a case of opposites here. If Joshua doesn't get in, Shannon Wright's got to get in and get it done. Maybe if they don't get in, Nankervis should get in. But none of them go into the lane.
A bit surprising, but that's what I would have done. Just do the opposite. Get out and clear air. Set a couple of quick lap times because, 58s and 59s for these guys. Now, Curvis a 57.9 and Higginson down in P5 a 54.9. So Higginson finding pace and he's finally stopped going off at Calamity Corner down there.
And that 54.9 is only the second lap time we've ever seen in the 54s all night long, and it's only a 10th shy of Shannon Wright's current fastest race lap too, of a 59.869.
Yeah, we got Dane now just going a bit defensive now, so just driving in his mirror just a little bit now.
He's done the right thing here. He's got the lights on.
Oh, he's got contact.
I was about to say, he's got the lights on here to warn the traffic ahead that he's the race leader who's coming through, but he just left the door a little bit ajar there at turn 7, and Shannon Wright thought he'd have a go, but they came out of that unscathed. But Turmo's getting ever closer now. That brick is getting much, much closer than it was a lap ago, and he's dragging Higginson with him.
So we saw Higginson in the 54s in that last lap, so Higginson getting it all together is actually in the background. I think it was a great ball there.
Yeah.
But if I was Turmo or Higginson again on this lap, if these guys stay out, I'm going in the pits. I'm going in the pits. Let these guys battle it out for another lap, and you might end up in front of them if they keep it up. But Wright's got another good run coming out of the chicane. He's up the inside, and he will get the move done. And I do expect maybe Dane to try and get that move back straight away like he did to Turmo.
He's going to try it there, but Shannon Wright was very, very quick off of turn 12 and 13 and has come out with the lead here. Now the shoe is on the other foot. If
Law's right in front, it's going to be awkward for these guys. They catch him at the wrong point.
Now, and what's Laws is going to lets him by, so that's actually worked out pretty well there. And then Laws goes the other way. Oh, that was a little bit dangerous because there was traffic coming. Now Craig Laws is staying out. I noticed that last lap as well that Bailey Northcote came in for his stop, and still in for his stop at the moment.
It might not be too bad for Dane here just to follow Shannon around the track here. He might pick up some pointers and see some of the lines that he's taking, and particularly through some of the chicanes, he does seem to have quite a bit of an advantage, and whether that's down to, he knows where to sort of exploit the track limits or not, might be a bit helpful for Dane. He might actually find out, or find a bit of pace here as he sees the lines that Shannon in front is taking.
Yeah, it's good to get a little bit of a pointer from a seasoned veteran, and given that he's been making, pace pretty much hand over fist in the opening couple of laps, and then really just couldn't do much with it until he was able to slip by. If he can just follow around and pick up a few of those pointers, he'll go pretty well, especially seeing as the Holden has so much more straight line speed than the Volvo, that he will stay in touch for a good part of this lap.
slight mistake for Shannon coming out of the Barter card chicane there. Has enabled Dane just to close up just a little bit. But, as Dane wide into the fence there, that's going to lose him all that time he just gained. But they had, as these guys aren't battling anymore, they're now driving away from Nankervis, who's actually got Turbo not too far away behind him now either.
Yeah, and Brett Willis is now in the lane for a second time as well. So remember if he was in very, very early for a pit stop, extremely early in the lap, and he's going to come in for a second time. So his pace hasn't been able to really translate into the kind of finish that he would like in race 1. Seems to be going the same way in race 2. I guess coming out of hospital as well in the last week is probably understandable. There he is, just off to the right. Takes a little bit of time sometimes to get back up to speed in a sim. A 153.459 for Shannon Wright, if you don't mind. Thank you very much.
Dane did a personal best as well. He did a 54.6. So, and he made a mistake on that lap. So it's helpful for Dane being able to follow Shannon Wright, but he just can't quite stick with him at the moment. It's just not quite fast enough.
No, definitely not. And look at the gap. The gap has exploded. After they were half a second apart at the beach chicane, look at the margin now. Over 3 seconds in the space of half a lap. And that's huge. That goes to show you how quick Shannon Wright is. If you could have a look, Lewis, just get me an idea of how quick Shannon was through that last sector, because he seemed mighty through that last sector of the track.
Yeah, he's quite a ways faster. He's in the Volvo, which does handle that final sector faster than the VL Commodore, but we also did see that Dane did make a slight mistake coming out of the beach chicane, which would have compromised him a bit of time as well, because the intermediate for the end of the second split, as with Shannon Wright, is around about where this zebra crossing is right here. So I think that's about the second point, and he would have been down a few k's coming obviously into Calamity Corner into here. But just watching Shannon go through here, that Volvo absolutely hooked up through this final sector. We did see it with Turmo in race 1. And we're seeing it shown to perfection with Shannon Wright here, just hitting the apexes, and that Volvo doing everything he wants at the moment.
Yeah, we're just on the roof cam at the moment, having a look at how we went through those couple of corners. You can see the commitment level was very, very high through those corners. Got the lines absolutely spot on to the millimetre.
Got a nice battle for third at the moment. Turner has caught up to the back of Nankervis as Shannon Wright, another 53.3.
He's just pumping the laps in now, just showing off now, I think. But this is now the next battle we're interested in. These guys, of course, yet to stop and change position. Turmo goes through to P3. And then Curvis now to P4. Now, Higginson was the last man to stop. That was on the previous lap. So everybody from Nathan Higginson on back has toured pit lane on at least one occasion. Some guys have toured twice. But it's the top 4 that are yet to stop, and that'll be how everything pans out. Have a look at the gap. The gap has gone up. And Dane, last time around, 56.666, and compared to Shannon Wright's 53.3, the gap is exploding at the moment.
Yeah, I do wonder. He's lost a little bit more time, I think, to Turmo on this lap as well. And he's always locked up there. I think he might be in that stage where he's losing bucket loads of time to Shannon Wright in front of him, and he's thinking, I've got to drive it harder and faster, but he's just I think he's in that stage where he's just overdriving a little bit, and he can get caught in a trap trying to set these bonsai lap times, trying to keep up with right in front of him. If he doesn't watch out, he'll make some mistakes and he'll come under fire from Turmo behind again. So he's just got to reevaluate. He's got to go, okay, I'm probably not going to be able to catch right in front, but I can maximise my result with a comfortable P2 if I don't throw it all the way here. So he's just got to reevaluate and just try and hit those apexes and braking points again.
Yeah, he's got to settle down I think a couple of us have been giving him as much advice as we can for such a young kid, about running his own race and not to worry about what everybody else is doing. And, you've got your first win under your belt, chip on the shoulder, got a point to prove, feeling really, really good about yourself. And you want to go out there, and you want to go out there and, get another race win on the board. But sometimes you just got to learn, know when to hold them and know when to fold them type thing. You've sort of got to just, keep going and just chalk up another podium. It's nothing to be frowned upon. So Nankervis now goes through to the race lead, and that meant that the drivers in positions 1, 2 and 3, Shannon Wright, Dane Joshua and Turmo, all came in on that last lap. There they are, all in the lane. Next man in P5 is Nathan Higginson. He's some ways off the top 3 or 4 cars. Oh, and he's had another moment there at Calamity Corner. He's this is not his favourite part of the circuit, this particular race.
Oh, he's battling that Mustang around the circuit. Yeah, I think he's just he goes quickly through the beach chicane, and then he just I think the run here, it's not entirely realistic because it is a little bit of a longer run in real life from that right-hand kink to the left-hand corner down there. I don't know the corner number or the the name of the street, but he seems to just always just mess up. He goes through the chicane like really quickly, he nails it, and then he just forgets where his braking point is because he's so happy he got through the chicane really quickly. So that's what a number of drivers has done. He's pushing it through that chicane. That is very, very flamboyant. He's drifting it through the second chicane as well. I think he's just having fun out here. He's just having a laugh.
And you know what?
Drifting it through the corners.
You know what? I think we've had this discussion with him before about whether or not he's got the broadcast up at the same time that he's driving, and he admitted in the first round that he did, and he said he claims to have not done it after that. But looking at what he was doing just then, I sort of think to myself, you know what? I reckon he has got it up, and he's knowing he's on telly, and he's just going to, do something to put on a show. So I think that's evidence enough to say, you know what? We'll go and look at somebody else. Let's go and have a look at Dane Joshua, because he's in third place ahead of Turmo. We're waiting on...
He's lost a lot of time.
Yeah, and we're waiting...
Either in the pit stops or outlap.
He's lost a lot, I think, through the pit stops and the outlap as well. We'll get a read on it this time around. Getting into pit lane, there was a 4-second difference in the lap time, and we'll get a read now on what the outlaps were, if it was something similar or different. We're just waiting on Nankervis to stop to see where this all shakes out. He's still going.
I wonder if he's repaired damage or something at the pit stop, because he's now 15 seconds behind Shannon Wright, which is quite a number. He's lost 5 seconds on the outlap, so he's perhaps also made a mistake. Got Laws there. Looks like he's had an adventure into the fence at the first chicane there, and he's struggling to get around at the moment. Yeah,
he's just gone the shortcut through the Witch's Hatch there at the second chicane that is. I'm wondering if he's got some steering damage or something. That car's wandering all over the shop.
Yeah, looks like, I think maybe front left. Looks like he may have a little bit of damage here. I'm just going to ride on board and just see if he's left or right hand down here. Yeah, he's left hand down massively. So he's got massive front left suspension damage, I'd say. And he's going to try and recover it back to the pits, but that's going to be a long drive home from here.
Yeah, that'll be a long drive. That's going to be similar to the Brett Willis drive in the second half of the first race when the big suspension damage happened, having to get it back to the pits to repair that damage and then get back out there. So he's going to struggle for a little bit, I think.
Looks like on this lap, Joshua has just regained a little bit of composure and he's just edged a little bit away from Turmo, and he hasn't lost too much time to Shannon Wright. It's going to be interesting though, when Nankervis pits, he's about 37.5 seconds in front of Turmo, and he'll probably need to find another second or two if he wants to sort of emerge around about the same point as Turmo. So he'll be hoping that he can keep going the way he's going, but Turmo maybe gets held up a little bit behind Joshua, and that gap just ekes out to about 39-40 seconds.
So Nankervis still yet to stop. He's going the deepest into this race that anybody has. It was about lap 12 or 13 in race 1 that the last person came in for their compulsory tyre stop. You've only got to see the pace that Nankervis is setting at the minute relative to Shannon Wright. The difference between the drivers is already, pretty evident. But Wright has taken a full 5 and a bit seconds out of the difference from the time that they came in and Nankervis went sailing by to the time they came out for a stop.
Yeah, actually, Nankervis has lost a bit of time here, so he's actually at least compared to Turmo. So that's who I'm comparing him to. He's obviously losing time to Wright as well, who, you know, is quite quick around here. He's in the 53s again on that last lap, so another 2.5 seconds faster than Curvis. That's not what I'm worried about. But again, just looking at that gap between second and fourth, the gap has come down, or sorry, from first to fourth, the gap's come down now to 35, or just under 36 seconds. So I think it's time that Nankervis brings it into the pits and gives him time to get those tyres up to temperature and time to use those nice set of greens that I'm sure he's going to put on.
And there comes Nankervis. So that solves that question. End of lap 12. So Shannon Wright will come around the final corner and then fire up the Volvo 240T down the Gold Coast Highway, which is the main straight on this street circuit, and it'll run down to turn 1.
And actually, we've had Joshua. He must have made a mistake because he's got Turmo right behind him coming out of the final corner. And Nankervis has got going again, so he's going to be in that little battle pack, but he will be behind those two.
But that's actually not too bad for him. He was about this distance behind them when they came in for their respective stops. So, and he's got much, much fresher boots than the two cars ahead of him. So if these guys continue to fight like they are right now, he might be there to pick up a podium when the checkered flag drops in about 7 laps.
Yeah, so plenty of time for him to catch up to the back of these guys, and I'm sure they're going to hold each other up as they did in race 1. So he was hoping this happened in race 1 and he could help fight for the win, but it's just too far away. But yeah, he's only 3 seconds away. I do imagine by the end of this lap he's actually going to be less than that, because it looks like at the moment Dane just struggling a little bit and holding Turmo up.
Down the Esplanade they come to Bartercard chicane, and I think you were talking about the street names here, Lewis. They now swing through the chicane and onto what is known as Main Beach Parade, which is why they call it the beach chicane, because it's on Main Beach Parade.
Also happens to be a beach right next to it.
Correct. That's the other part of it as well.
Yeah, Turmo in the Volvo is much faster through that chicane. I don't know if it's a line thing or a car thing, but all that time that Dane had made up down the straights, he's lost it immediately, and Turmo right behind him. Now, does Dane again sort of compromise? He has a double turn in there, so not ideal. And again, compromising his line. No one's going to pass him into there. You don't really brake, and Turmo wasn't close enough, so he's just compromising himself in his lap time here. But I'm sure when he watches this back, he'll know for next time to just focus on using more of the road, getting more lap time. He'll hold on down the straight, but Turmo will be rubbing his hands together, knowing that last time out Dane did make a mistake and was able to get by, and he'll be hoping for another one at some point in the next 6 laps.
So 6 laps to run here. First is pretty much a foregone conclusion at this point, with Shannon Wright starting pretty much at the back of the grid for the reverse grid race. He didn't start the first race, so you come in late, start at the back. And once he found his way through to the front, he's pretty much had it his own way. And this is the real battle. Go on.
That's another corner that Dane seems to just lose a little bit of time. I don't know if it's just that maybe he's losing it under braking a little bit, or he just likes to turn in early there after that little left-hander after the second chicane there. But he always seems to turn in earlier than the Volvos, what I've noticed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's costing him time in the mid-corner and exit. So if he can just clean that up a little bit, again, it'll give him more breathing room down obviously this back end of the circuit. So that's another place where he can clean it up. But it looks like Turmo's made a mistake at the Bartercard chicane, and now Nankervis is starting to give him a run for his money.
Yeah, he has. He's had a bit of an incident just there at that last chicane. We've seen just about every corner of this circuit has got paint on it from some car or another, and a number of drivers have rubbed that wall on that chicane exit a couple of times tonight, just as Nankervis has done with Calamity Corner that we've aptly named tonight as well. In his
right out sideways for that one.
Oh yeah, just picked up the throttle again. A bit too greedy on the loud pedal, which is what we've accused Nathan Higginson of doing too many times.
be interesting to see what happens the next lap or two with Turmo and Nankervis, whether Turmo is able to just get back on it and apply the pressure to Joshua in front, or if he just sort of falls into a little bit of a negative spiral and finds himself battling with Nankervis. So that's going to be something to look out for in this next lap. And actually, despite that, obviously, moment at Calamity Corner there for Nankervis, actually did set a personal best in that last lap. So he'll be hoping he can put a clean lap together and he'll be in the 55s.
Yeah, 56.324 was his PB that time around. Looking at all the best laps, Shannon Wright's best lap is clearly head and shoulders above everybody. But then his last lap around, he was only 0.2 of a second off his fastest lap of the race. He did a 53.5 last time around. His best lap is a 53.3. So Shannon Wright showing no signs of slowing down. He did talk himself up a little bit last week, saying that he loved the Gold Coast and he was really looking forward to it. And he'd been cutting laps during the week. But of course, we all knew that he had a bit of an act to put on to make sure he could do a bit of racing tonight. And it's good to see that he actually made it, for at least for one race.
He's probably still going to have to put on a little bit of an act after this, I'd imagine.
Oh, I think so too. We'll we won't advocate for anything in particular, but I think you at home can probably work out where this is going.
I think we'll one together, but he's trying to get this over and done with as quickly as possible as well. He's still pushing out there. But looks like that battle for second, though, it's starting to close right up between all of them here. So it's
Shannon Wright, 52s. Look at that. It just flashed up, Lewis. Sorry to cut you off. 52.705. He is just having a ball out there at the moment.
Yeah, I think the wife telling him, hurry up.
Yep.
And he's obliging here. 52.7. That's the fastest time I think we've seen all week. So absolutely flying out there. 29 seconds in the lead, but what we're going to be watching for the most part is this battle for second between Joshua, Turmo and Nankervis, who is now in the 55s after putting it all together.
Yep, there he is, 55.635. Oh, and there's a bit of a mistake here for Dane Joshua off of the first chicane, and that, Turmo thought he'd have a chance to have a bit of a look there, and it was half a shot. But this has now invited Nankervis into the picture. He's going to round Turmo up. He might get a 2-for-1 special here down here at 6.
Yeah, Turmo was just in the wrong position at the wrong time, where he was too close to Dane to be able to get a move done in the second chicane. It was balked on the exit as Joshua had that really big slide. He's able to hold on, but those two Volvos I suspect for the remainder of this lap are going to be duking out, while Dane, all he's got to do is just not bowl it at the braking point at the Bartercar chicane, and he should be okay until next time by, or the final sector I should say.
Just lost Craig Laws in the last 30 seconds or so as well. Looks like that might be an internet disconnect as well. It happened very abruptly. So he's unfortunately out of this one. But you're right. Dane's managed to get away a little bit here and leaving the two Volvos, the number 51 and the number 018 respectively, to duke it out for at least the next half a lap.
Oh, Dane wide, he's in the fence.
Yep, and behind them, Nankervis gave it a little bit of a rub as well.
Northcote, 52.0.
How has he done that? That's come out of nowhere.
I'd imagine he's just gone full yeet over curve. I think. But 2 laps down and 52.0. I think he's just gone, well, stuff, and I'm just going to go flatter on all these games.
Now, Lewis, I'm noticing a little something here. There's been a bit of a trend that started to have been established over the course of the last couple of races. Of course, Nathan Higginson, with his popular statement about, I hope I don't run out of talent if I do pass me, on the back of his car. I've noticed that Turmo's got something similar. We might see if we can get a bit of a read here from the Jamie Nankervis car, which we're just sort of struggling a little bit at the minute. Look at the front shot. Oh, we've got the box seat to a nice little battle here, as Joshua's having to defend really heavily now, having to really drive it down the middle of the road. Got to park it. Got to park it.
Turmo's going to try and switch back, but he doesn't have the power to do the switchbacks. He has to get it done either under braking or after a mistake.
Yep. Whoa! Nankervis go round. So now before he So that takes him out of this battle. Now, before that, I was able to read the back of Turmo's car. You probably just caught it on the broadcast. It actually just said, if you can read this, you're too slow.
So a number of drivers now hearing some statements on the back of their cars.
Wonder what the next one's going to be and who's going to do it.
Yeah, I do remember there was a couple in I think the AMS Oz series that we've ran. I think there's a couple on the rear wings of the CRE cars and the supercars.
Yeah, there's hashtag follow me. There's hashtag I'm driven. Hashtag spank me. I think there's a few weird ones, but I know Cam Rutledge just got I think electrified on his one, but that's fitting for him because he's an electrician by trade.
I think Follow Me's been on one of them as well at some point.
Yeah,
as well. Turmo right up behind Dane again, but he's not going to be able to do anything about it down this pit straight unless Dane puts the fence. But bit of flamboyant driving on the exit final corner there, but Dane will hold on. But Turmo, again, he won't want to get caught out by being too close if Dane makes a mistake at the first chicane. But again, he's got to be close enough if he wants to get a move done at the left-hander down the back end of the track. So as you can see, Turn much faster through that first chicane, and again, Dane just holding on. I reckon he's out-braking himself, Dane, a little bit at that first chicane, and it just can't quite get the nose in. In fact, on my end, it's like Turbo just on the horn. The Dane to hurry up, stop holding me up through those first couple of chicanes there, but Turbo, he's again, I reckon he's almost got to back off just a little bit for that first chicane and not get caught up when Dane makes that slight error through the first chicane, and then he can maybe pounce while keeping that momentum, because he's just losing it all, having to obviously avoid hitting the back end of the VL Commodore.
Yeah, not only that, I think Dane as well is just sort of trying to outbrake himself into his corners. Oh, and he's around. Speak of the devil, he's gone. And he's done that all by himself. And the other thing I was about to say, Lewis, is I think he is also probably just over driving the car a little bit. And what I mean by that is that he's picking up the accelerator just a little bit too early in some spots, and it's just unsettling the car. The car does not want to react to his inputs at the times that he's making those inputs. And as a result, the car's sliding. It's over. Outbraking himself, and yep.
Oh, that's a big hit. That's going to be suspension damage for sure.
Yep, that wallops.
You're going to have to get on board of that and see if he's left hand down again or right hand down. But yeah, as you're saying, he's just over driving it just a little bit. You want to be nice and smooth, especially when you get to a certain stage in a stint, regardless of what car you're driving. The tyres do start to fall away. The car's a little bit lighter as well, which makes the car more lively. And you do have to drive it a little bit straighter, but he was trying to drive it like he was on a fresh set of tyres on a quali run, but you just can't do that. So that's where experience comes in. Obviously he's very, very new to the game and to sim racing, so that'll be something that he's going to find out whether he likes it or not.
I think he might have been very lucky there to escape some suspension damage, because the car steering looks pretty straight from the onboard that we're looking at the minute over his left shoulder, so I think he's gotten away with one there. But it's just a case of the car not wanting to react at the times that he's asking it to behave in a certain way, and as a result the car's on the lock stops, the car's sliding, it's understeering, and it's outbraking itself into corners. Now I
think that the best thing you can do is just sort of relax a little bit and just try not to overdrive the car, and try not to force drive the car where you're trying to hit the marks right on the spot, and you're just trying to gas it up as soon as you can, as he's sideways on the exit of the corner. It just needs to be a little bit smoother and just to relax a little bit, and the times will come to it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Times will come with practice and time. That's pretty much all it is. Race leaders commence the final lap. So Shannon Wright has got a enormously comfortable margin at the moment, and he will just bring it home, I think, in these last couple of laps to take line honours in race 2. Now, for a little while, after that sort of battle resolved itself with Dane's spin, the closest battle on track was actually the Bailey Northcote and John Wright battle, that's just exploded in the last couple of minutes to a 4-second advantage to Bailey Northcote, who's actually had that fastest lap of the race taken away by Brett Willis, who's done a 151.8. Again, I think you're probably right, Lewis. There's probably been a bit of yeeting of some of the curbs as a result of that. And there's a couple of guys, Turmo and Northcote, running through the opening chicane. And that Mustang, also in the hands of Bailey Northcote, doesn't look like it's any strange to going sideways either.
Yeah, I think all of them at the moment on not the newest of tyres, and obviously probably not the greatest state of concentration either. So you are going to see some mistakes creep in this time of the night. And at this point of the evening, where your second race in, back end of what is a very, very long racetrack here. So about 35 minutes in again here. And just struggling a little bit all around.
Yeah, we're up to nearly 39 at the moment. So the race leader's going to take the checkered flag, and it's going to be 39 minutes on the clock, or just over that. But he did pretty well. He's got some making up with a wife to do after this one, but he's going to get a very healthy haul of 50 points towards his championship for that one, and another win on the season for Shannon Wright. So from our records for Shannon Wright, that is win number 4 from 8 races.
Yeah, very, very solid, and it's always good when you get one of these back-to-front challenges complete, and that's one off the bucket list.
Yeah, spot on. It's going to be a pretty good result for Turmo. 2 second places on the night on debut in the series is nothing to be frowned upon. He has done some supercar stuff in this series with Assetto Corsa Aussie Down Under Series, I believe, as well. But first appearance in ATCC tonight, and a pair of second place podium finishes will be good for him. Tooting the horn as he crossed the line.
As you said, his first round, but he'll move up quite a number of spots, I'd imagine, from that. So good, solid haul from Turmo. And same with Dane Joshua. Obviously not ideal. He couldn't quite hold on to second in race 2, but picking up his first win in race 1. I'm pretty sure he'll be quite happy with tonight's results.
Nankervis home in 4th. He was the last man on the lead lap, because it looks like Higginson is Higginson's in the pits. So he was the first man a lap down. So Nankervis with P4, having finished 3rd in race 1. And a 5th place for Nathan Higginson is enough to move him ahead of Terry Marwood in the point standings as it is right now. Dylan Call will take P6 with Bailey Northcote already across the line. And there's already the customary shenanigans after race proceedings.
Every driver across the finish line now. So.
Yeah, now Craig Laws, I think, was out after the race had actually concluded. Because he was a non-finisher early in the race, and I think again that was an internet disconnect. John Wright home for 8th place. He's caught up in that little bit of a melee there as well. So we're just filling out the point standings as everything goes along here.
Quite good for Dylan Cole, in the I guess the Group C standings. That result, because I don't think there's anyone else out there in a Group C car. So. Really important for him out there. You just wish he had, more competitors.
Correct. And the only other car we've seen out there for the Group C cars has been the RX-7, which is what Jamie Nankervis started with. We've also seen Dylan Call in the hands with that car, and we've also seen Brendan Ross pilot that car as well. So you're very few of them, and of course, in the very first time that a couple of the guys were on debut with Craig Laws and Stephen Guy, they were in the XB, the Falcon XB Coupe, which was also Group C era as well.
Brian Walsh as well. Is the XD a Group C or Group
yes.
A?
I believe it falls into the Group C. The Group A stuff sort of came on in the late 80s. The Group A was when the Sierras started to come on the scene. So I believe we're going to... the XD is classed in Group C. The last of the Group C big bangers.
So here's another one that has driven in the series. Not here tonight, but he did race at the last round, picking up 16th and 11th. So
we're now waiting to see whether or not we'll have any of the drivers come up to pay us a little bit of a visit. Just going to give them a little message and see if they're ready to come up. But now the interesting part of this argument, Lewis, and you're going to agree with me on this one, there is one member of these group of people that we're waiting to see if they're ready to come up and see us that we know for sure doesn't like to talk very much.
Yeah, Termo isn't one to really stick around and have a chat in certainly a broadcast. So if he does come in here, I wouldn't expect more than 3 words in any question that's put to him.
Yeah, well, we're...
Do you want me to bring him in?
I think we might have to, John. Thank you very much. We might have to bring our top 3 from all the races in. We might have to go up. You might have to go up to the general channel and let them know that they're going to be dragged in, so they're not swearing at each other and us when they get in here, please. I'll send you on your way so you can do that. And while he goes off to retrieve our top 3, we'll have a bit of a very brief look at the point standing. So the main one out of all that was that Shannon Wright keeps his lead intact and keeps it intact quite comfortably after all that. Higginson moves up to P2 and Marwood down to 3rd. Dylan Call and Jamie Nankervis both jump above Scott Nolan through his absenteeism tonight. And Termo with his pair of second places goes up to 11th, and Dane with his pair of podium finishes, including the race 1 win, jumps all the way up to 8th, and that takes him ahead of Brian Munn, but he's behind John Wright. So all in all, there is a little bit of movement in the point standings tonight.
Yeah, quite a bit of movement with obviously a number of drivers not making it, and of course, Dane picking up, a couple really good results. So a bit of movement. Hopefully next round we do get all those runners that weren't able to run this week back in it, and give Shannon Wright a bit of a run for his money, and hopefully get to see some new drivers at the front as well.
Yep. Oh, I think we've, speaking of Shannon Wright, in people giving him a run for his money, that's the first person that John Wright has actually thrown down here into the lion's den, and in the middle of a conversation, it sounds like, Shannon, because you were in the process of saying something when you arrived in here. And so is the next people that are in here, so we may as well start with you, Shannon.
Hey guys, how are you?
Good. Now, first things first, let's get this out of the way. How much grovelling did you have to do to the wife to race that second race? And not only that, to win it from the rear of grid. I take it you were probably on a time constraint.
Mate, I tell you what, it's been, everything just seemed to plan nice. It was from the morning through to breakfast. Then it was like, they went to a high tea. Then we had dinner around 5:30. We had ice cream and that. Come back home, it's about 7:30. I thought, you know what, I can make this second race. It worked out sweet.
Wonderful. Well, for your safety, actually, it's managed to help you keep your points lead intact after tonight's round as well. I mean, you didn't lose too much of your advantage to the man in second place, Terry Marwood, because Terry wasn't here tonight. Nathan actually drew level with him on points after race 1, but if you hadn't turned up, you would have probably found yourself with a much reduced deficit going into Phillip Island next week. But I'm sure you're glad you turned up now, because you were setting the timing screens alight for quite a few laps in that race.
Oh, thanks very much, mate. Listen, a big shout out to Terry. Mate, he's had some medical issues at the moment. He can't get any heat into his head. He's got a VR system, and it gives him complete nosebleeds. So he watched tonight with a hanky shoved right up his nose to stop him bleeding. But yeah, I know exactly where he would want to be. And mate, we've been practicing during the week, and the whole 4 of us in the team have all been matching each other for time. So yeah, it was great.
I did notice a comment from Terry during the broadcast very early on. So send our wishes, Terry, if you are still watching, to get well soon. And I haven't had a chance to run one of those VR systems yet, but I can imagine it's takes some time to getting used to. But well done, Shannon. You've got yourself another race win. That's 4 out of the 8 races so far. And Phillip Island next up. And Lewis and I were having a bit of a chat during the broadcast about how we think the Volvo is going to go right now. I think it's going to go pretty well. What are your thoughts?
Mate, we actually had a chance to give it a go, work on a setup, and mate, we were pretty impressed with what we've got to bring to the next round. So we thought that we'd be down a bit on the top end, but obviously these things are a rock solid on the corners and braking. I think we can definitely take it to the VLs. Also, it was just great to have Timo and also Dane join us tonight. A couple of new faces, and good to race with them again.
Well, speaking of Dane Lewis, let's go and grab him because he was a much deserving race winner from that first race. He fought tooth and nail for it.
Yeah, he certainly did. Made it a little bit more difficult than what he would have liked, but certainly a well-deserved winner in the end, holding off Termo. Dane, how do you feel after obviously notching up your first win, I believe, in a sim outside of Forza, I believe?
Yeah, it still hasn't sunken in really. No, not much to say.
Fair enough. Termo 2.0 over here.
I was about to say he's been taking his cues from somewhere, hasn't he?
No, I'm just disappointed after the second race after binning it. So, yeah, still got two podiums. So,
despite that, obviously, still two very, very strong results in a race win and a third. Was it a case of the VL just a little bit cumbersome through the chicanes and certainly the final sector, the VL looked to struggle to get through compared to the Volvos? Because down the straights it could hold its own, but it looked like you struggled a little bit at that final sector.
Well, the final sector, the Volvo is just wow. It's got brakes, it's got turning, which is the one thing the VL doesn't have. But yeah, when I spun it, just was having a bit of a laugh with Termo and cooked it, you know.
Yeah, leading up to that spin though, it did look like you were just struggling a little bit for traction. Was it a case of you just overdriving the car, or were the tires just a little bit gone at that point?
Those rear tires were dead. They were absolutely gone.
All right, fair enough. But still, two very solid results. With Phillip Island coming up, I do know that you did race last night around Phillip Island in Assetto Corsa in these cars. How do you find it, and are you confident going into Phillip Island next time out?
I don't like it, and I'm not confident. The VL is just horrible around that track.
Fair enough.
Mixed with the facts I can't drive that track, I don't think they're going to get a very good result.
Fair enough. Either way, well done tonight, and best of luck next week.
Thank you.
Tends to suggest, I think, Lewis, that Phillip Island will end up being very much a driver's track. I think that's sort of the way that they call it nowadays. Let's jump over to Jamie Nankervis. So he's got his first podium finish tonight and a fourth place to boot. That's a pretty handy result, Jamie, considering you swapped over from the RX-7 to the Volvo in between Barbagallo and the Gold Coast. A bit like chalk and cheese, I think, if results are looking the way they are.
Yeah, thanks, guys. It was something different. The Volvo's just got a bit more consistency around the track. Just struggled the last couple of rounds with the RX-7, just lacking too much power down the straight. Just found it too hard to try to fight it. Just to try to get what you could out of it. So the Volvo was a little bit easier to drive.
Just going back to those last couple of races that you mentioned about too, with Symmons Plains and Barbagallo, and a number of very long straights for the RX-7 in those cases. Where was the deficit? Was it just in the top line speed? Was it getting off the corners? Or where do you think the difference is from the RX-7 to the Volvo that's made you feel so much more comfortable? The guys have already suggested that the Volvo is much better under braking. It's a better overall handling car, but it does still lack the straight line speed that it does against, say, a Commodore. But do you think it's a step up from the RX-7 in that department?
Definitely going from a Group C to a Group A. It comes at mid-corner speed is better in the Volvo than it is in the RX-7. So a lot quicker coming onto the straight, so you can hold it a lot better.
So basically what you're saying there is you're able to carry a little bit more momentum through some of those corners, and then that's translating to a better top speed at the other end of the equation. So that makes a bit more sense from some of the things that we've been seeing. Tonight obviously was a bit of a hard step, I guess, as well, seeing some of the VL just romping off into the distance rather, down some of those really long straights, which you really don't have at Phillip Island. So that's why I've sort of gone out on a limb here and said that PI is probably going to be a track we think that the likes of the Volvo are going to excel at, and it seems to be a theory that's pretty well supported at the moment.
Yeah, agree. It's just a very good mid-speed car. It handles the nice fast corners really well.
Well, you've certainly put it to good use tonight. See if you can carry your run of form over into next week. Job well done on a pretty good night all around for you, and it moves you up to P5 on the standings. Well done.
Thanks, guys.
Well, Lewis, we did suspect that we weren't going to be paid a visit by Termo, and it looks like we've proven right. But look, that's hardly a surprise, considering he doesn't like to talk very much. He's very he doesn't like being put on the spot. It's not that he doesn't like to talk very much. He doesn't like being put on the spot.
Yeah, he certainly doesn't like being asked questions and all that stuff in a public kind of forum. But I'm sure he'll be very happy with his first outing of the season. Good racing with Dane Liccardo all night long, and getting the better of him in race 2. Couldn't quite get the race win in the end in race 1, but still he'll be quite happy with tonight's racing.
And with 2 second place podium finishes as well, he's actually not only gone ahead of Bailey Northcote, who's done one more round than him, he's actually drawn level with Brock Harvey and is actually ahead on a countback because he's got the better results as well. So 2 races, boom, boom, and already vaults himself halfway up the order on the point standing. So he'll be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, and a good solid start to his campaign. So if he can sort of carry that consistency through the season, I reckon he's going to give everyone a little bit of a shake-up and run for their money. Because as we saw, he doesn't make too many mistakes. Might not have the greatest outright speed, but he's going to be one that if people have an off night, he's going to be there to capitalise.
Yeah, you're not wrong. We've seen that today. He was right in the thick of it with Dane right until the very end and just couldn't find a way past. But you're right, if he's there to pick up the spoils from some of the guys that make mistakes, he will very quietly but quickly make his way up the point standings. Well, before we leave it there for tonight, there is a little bit of a small bit of business that we will just advise everybody of the viewers on this channel. Coming up in the next couple of weeks, not for ACAD's Assetto Corsa Aussie Down Under series, but for Automobilista Australia, which we have promoted on this channel quite a number of times through all the live streams that we've been doing. The Bathurst 500 is coming up. And with that, we not only have qualifying in the race, but actually in the next day or two, we're actually going to be conducting a very live, important broadcast, and that is the pit lane draw, the random pit lane draw for that event. There's about 20 cars registered for that event, so the pit lane draw is very, very crucial as to where you start in pit lane, not only for qualifying, but for the race. It's not done based on a championship standings because it's a standalone event, so to make it fair, we're doing a random draw. So if you're interested in tuning in for that, keep an eye out for that live stream on this channel in the next day or two. We'll leave it there for the night. Thanks, Lewis, again, as per usual, for joining me in the commentary box.
No worries. It's been a pretty good night of racing. Hopefully it continues on in the next round.
And I think we might go and get a beer and celebrate on a webcam. Drive safely, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.